Hello, allies. It is Monday, March 25th, 2019. Here's your cup of Jones. Happy anniversary, everybody. As of Thursday of last week, we are officially 3 years old. What sort of development advantages do we have now as a human being at 3? I don't know. What happens in 3? No idea. This has been a weekend, I'll tell you. I'm going to talk a lot before we get to business questions. I apologize to Bloodworth, who's got to drop some of the rest of the equipment that he was so wonderfully gracious to deliver to the concert this weekend, including the giant shop. So Blood's got to leave early. So I will hopefully get through all of this before I get to business questions, and then get through business questions so Blood can take off and make that delivery back into the studio. Yeah, if you missed it, if you're just tuning in to Cup, bless you. Saturday night, we did our Mysterious Monster Mash. It did not premiere to our fans and patrons and Twitch and YouTube audience until last night, Sunday night. We had issues on Saturday night, which I will go into in exhausting detail. I wanted just to not put them into the YouTube video because one of the issues that might be hard to understand on the outside looking in is you never want to rush to solve a problem because when something goes wrong and then you show up and, talk about the issue or apologize about the issue or just kind of talk about the issue in very small terms, and a lot of people don't know, you actually create more of a problem because people are like, what did I miss? And so the video that we put up on YouTube that we put out for everybody, I just wanted to say, we're aware that didn't happen Saturday night. It's happening Sunday night. Tune in. We'll have more details Monday morning. So here are those details. First of all, before we even get into that, I want to talk about just various updates. I'm extremely nervous to go through all of this, so I might be burping a little bit. Apologies. I feel one coming. I was typing down like what else has been going on in Easy Allies. It's like, oh yeah, we completely changed our tiers last Tuesday. The Patreon itself has changed up. If you were unaware, if you weren't able to tune in Tuesday night to our group stream, thank you to everybody that submitted memories from the past 3 years. That was really fun to go through all of them. We'll actually talk about that a little bit more in this episode. And we announced 3 big things. One, we're doing Mysterious Monsters. That is no longer a 55K goal. It's no longer a goal at all. We've taken it away, and we are just going to do it. We're doing it because a lot of work had already been done on it. We're doing it because Huber's a genius at that. We were doing it because Ian and Jason were just having so much fun putting it together. Is really the only time I think this has happened in the history of Easy Allies, and I'll go into a little more detail specifically about the process of the development of the game show. But the ball just got rolling. It was kind of like when I played Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I just played too much of it and then was like, well, I got to finish this now. So it's that kind of attitude. So we're doing Mysterious Monsters. Today we're shooting 3 more episodes. So hopefully before... in the next couple months, you will have not only the pilot that is already up on our YouTube channel that you can go check out, where I go head-to-head, tete-a-tete with Jessica Linverdi and Michael Damiani from Mysterious Monsters Dominance. And we have this live episode that you can now enjoy, which kudos to all of the 9 contestants at the actual Mysterious Monsters Mash for taking the show seriously, being wonderfully competitive. One of which, Mitchell Webb, I went to high school with. He somehow, I think he said the San Dimas rules from Bill and Ted, and Huber was like, sold, you're up on stage. And I was backstage, so I'm like, I think that's Mitch. We're going to have 3 more episodes. And then, again, Ian is the main producer of Mysterious Monster Mash. He will communicate to me when those episodes will be ready, when you can expect more episodes of that show. But don't have to worry about that being a Patreon goal. And the guest show, the live guest show that was previously at the 58K goal, has dropped down to 55K, has taken that Mysterious Monsters place. So currently on patreon.com/easyallies, our top goal is $55,000 to get a live guest show that we will be talking more about as we move closer to that goal. And we will have more goals in the future. We did think long and hard about goals at the end of January, and we thought a lot about goals in our meeting at the end of February, knowing that the Mysterious Monster Mash was coming up. And that perfect blend of makes sense for a business is something that we really want to do and is enticing for the Triforce, is enticing for our community. Nothing really jumped out at us that we were ready to announce that we're ready to go into production. So there were just lots of other things logistically that we needed to get taken care of in terms of our anniversary. That is past us. I'm so excited to spend money on things that have nothing to do with Mysterious Monsters or USC, and so I'm very much looking forward to making improvements to the studio, talking more about the future of Easy Allies and what that will be, and making adjustments to this Patreon as we move forward. The other adjustment, the less popular one, the one I definitely saved for last, is we're taking retrospectives off the list of goals. Does not mean there will not be more retrospectives in the future. Does not mean one retrospective might be in production right now. Doesn't mean we don't want to do them. It just means it's disingenuous to our community to promise them. It's as simple as that. It's nothing changes as far as like how we feel about retros. We still love them. They're still very hard to do. I think every single ally has one retro that like they really want to do. I would love to just crack out all the Soul Calibur games and just get into it, but like, would that be good for this company? I don't know. And is that it's kind of one of the big struggles with these allies? Is it better to, pretend to be game trailers, or is it better to see naturally, organically how this business is evolving, how the interests of the allies and our community change, how our production capabilities evolve, and understand all those things and have those things be the basis, kind of like a blank slate. And there's nothing blank slate about retros. Like retros, it's hard to bend that concept. And taking them off the list gives us the freedom to do that. Not only can we do retrospectives now on our own schedule and do them when we're available to do them, when we are encouraged to do them, when we have time to do them, but do special features as well. Because that was always a concern. If we wanted to do kind of a one-off special episode or do a 20-minute, 30-minute episode about something that doesn't necessarily sound like a retrospective, but might be exploring a franchise that we're curious about or want to educate our community about, or a topic that we think is interesting. And then what if we put up that feature and people watch that and they're like, this was great, but where are the retros? And it's like retros are just kind of getting in the way of a lot of things. I can maybe do an editorial about them because I have lived with retros for a very long time, since I was producing them way back at Game Trailers more than a decade ago. So that was that was a tough Band-Aid to rip off, but I just get a lot of sentiments from people that they were like, makes me sad, but I understand. I completely understand that take. It also makes me sad too. I wish it'd be fun if like retros was my only job. If we were like, patreon.com/retros, that'd be an interesting gig. And the Sony reactions are today. A lot of people don't know that. I saw some people in chat being like, wait, whoa, that's today. It kind of crept up on us because we had a crazy week last week, but during all of that craziness, Sony decided to jump in and be like, oh, by the way, we're going to be doing this thing called State of Play. We're like, what is that? And we have no idea. That could be couches again. We could get a new, we could get a release date, or not a release date of the PS5, but we could find out when possibly a PSX is happening this year. We could get like around E3 plans, and new IPs could drop. No idea. This is like Sony's take on the Nintendo Direct, and we'll see what the heck they're going to do. So Sony likes to surprise, and we like it when Sony surprises us. And yeah, there we go. So those are all just basically general. And of course, there's a ton of fun stuff to watch. Like I said, we Tuesday night, we reacted to a lot of fun memories from the past 3 years of Easy Allies. You can go and watch that, the stream of our Tuesday night group stream. On Thursday, we did an 8-hour stream that I showed up for the last 30 minutes of because I was doubling over in pain over my couch over a pocket of air that was caught in my stomach because I was so nervous about this weekend for all of the reasons I'm about to tell you. So that's, unfortunately, I was not there on Thursday. Shout out to everybody that was there. Shout out to Kristen, who was there the whole time, which she definitely did not have to do. And Kristen has just been absolutely wonderful in terms of managing our community, communicating things. The directions were incorrect. USC gave us bad directions. More on that later. And Kristen was actually the one that updated the Patreon post. I like ran into the studio and like threw her my laptop. I was like, the directions are wrong. Can you please update the Patreon post and tweet out to everybody that the directions are incorrect? We have 100 people driving to us right now that are all going to get lost. And so Kristen's she's just so smart and so in tune with all of you, and is just a absolutely essential resource that we need in making sure everything goes right and goes smoothly. Blood says, sorry, I haven't had time to get that archive up. It's been nonstop, and the one time I had a chance to try, I found out that it was blocked worldwide. So that is the 8-hour group stream. We played all sorts of things. I was supposed to download and provide Ape Out. I looked on Slack, and Blood said, oh, Ben has Ape Escape, and in my stressed and fractured brain, I read Ape Escape and saw Ape Out. And I was like, okay, great. So I didn't have that available as well. Oh, it was a fun week. And then, of course, Mysterious Monster Mash is now up on YouTube. You can go. I last night I watched the archive, not the archive. I watched the post on Twitch, and it was really fun seeing everybody's reaction to stuff that I had done. If you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it, but stuff I did, during the show. I just revisited all of those moments, and all of you were very nice to me and very supportive, and it was very fun to watch your reactions. So even if they weren't technically live. So you can go watch all of that stuff. Anniversary is over. We are 3 years old. It is extremely exciting. Time to move on to the future. Before we do that, I want to talk about Thursday. So I very vaguely, or Saturday, I was very, very vaguely mentioned in the post that there were technical and scheduling difficulties. And I wanted to make sure to include the scheduling difficulties because the short way to answer the question of why we did not live stream the Mysterious Monster Mash is no audio or video equipment was provided by USC to shoot or record it. There were no cameras. We walked into that room and we were like, okay, so we're gonna be live streaming this. And the staff was like, what? We're like, we're live streaming it on Twitch. And they're like, no one told us that. So that kind of is beginning the narrative today of the issues that I've dealt with USC since the beginning of November 2018. Pull up a chair, everybody. I want to start by talking about one of the worst parts of this job. And that is giving power to other people. When you run your own business, when we make money, like if we sold widgets and you gave us money and we're like, hey, here's your widget. And then you're like, okay, great. Like our transaction is over. You go and you use your widget, and if it breaks, we have a refund policy, and then that's it. And then I get money, and then I pay my employees with it. And then now that I have money, now it's just between me and my employees. Crowdfunding is different. We have this ongoing relationship that just ticks by every second, minute, week, day. And so I'm always conscious. I'm always trying to think of the benefit that you are getting, how we are communicating, what we are doing to you. It also speaks to that fine line between surprising you and not educating you, but informing you, so, we're talking about retros. I'm being extremely vague because I don't want to give a date and then, not be able to meet that because of, circumstances outside of our control, like Sony dropping a press conference on us out of nowhere. It's frustrating to deal with a third party, to deal with someone else that could completely drop the ball. And then I am at fault for part of this, and I'll explain why. And I will completely fall on the sword. I will, the buck stops here, 100%. None of this reflects back, back on any of the other allies. If after I explain everything that happened this weekend, you're like, sounds like you screwed up, Jones, I will completely take that, 100%. But at the same time, and while I feel bad and I will harbor a lot of guilt for that, I can get past that. I can deal with that. What I can't get past is when you invest in something as patrons, when you get excited about stuff that we're doing at Easy Allies and we cannot fulfill those promises to you. It's also part of why we're not putting retros on the list anymore. It's like, I want to be completely transparent. I want you always to know what is happening. And I want you always to know when you put $1, $5, $10, $250, $500 towards Easy Allies. You know where that money is going. You know what we're going to be doing with it. Your expectations are met for the most part. So it's frustrating and very scary to completely, give someone else money and then have them be like, it's going to be great. And then you show up and it's not. The first year we did the concert, it was very much that. The first year we were at a place up on Hollywood Boulevard, and they were very frustrating to deal with. They were very mean when we got there. They were very pushy. There were a lot of cooks in the kitchen. We had an open bar, because we were at a bar. But when we showed up, like, nobody helped us. Like, we showed up and like we were wandering around like, who's in charge here? It was like Joe Pesci at the beginning of Home Alone. Like, what is going on? Like, I was going to use the piano, and they were like, where's the power cable for the piano speaker? And they couldn't find that until like 10 minutes before we opened the door. Like, and what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do because you can't, if you're paying somebody to get in a venue, you cannot get into that building unless you're, you're paying to be there. And so you want to give yourself enough time beforehand, but like, you cannot control, like, I'm not Professor X. I can't mind meld other people. And so after year one, we were like, we're not doing that again. We're going to go someplace else. We shopped around a lot last year for the venue that we were going to pick, and we found Tommy's Place at USC. And I've always, I learned so much production wise from school. I learned a lot when I was in high school because we had a partnership through a video class with a local cable company. So when I was like 16 when I first used a green screen and, did titling effects and lower thirds and multiple camera angles and switchers and all, it was like, and it wasn't a sense of like I was running a television program. We were just making mistakes and doing everything wrong. And when I went to Emerson College in Boston, they had a really tremendous partnership with all of the various, all the various departments, so costumers and actors and filmmakers and people doing lighting and sound and editing and writing. Like there was a really great synergy between them, and so I was constantly learning through using things, and so just hands-on experience. And so when I found out it was at the school, I was like, this could be really fun. Like we could have a lot of students involved in this. We could save a lot of money because they want to bring other people in, and they have some huge events. They've had a lot of really crazy famous public speakers at Tommy's Place. They've had a lot of big bands at Tommy's Place before. They come on and play on campus. And we had an absolute dynamite production manager. We had a guy who took us through the whole thing, and we went there and met him in person and saw the venue, and he was constantly in contact with Ian and myself and had a lot of fun ideas. And I thought last year we put together a really fun show, and we learned a lot last year. I think one of the big changes between last year and this year was the use of the screen. So last year there was a lot of live performance video, and when the video would happen, this the screen would ring, slowly come in, and we're like, that's kind of a buzzkill. The show's kind of stopping, and so we're like, maybe we'll use the screen less this year. And as we got closer and closer to the event, we're like, let's just not use the screen at all. And because Mysterious Monsters on its own is going to be a tricky process. We have sets we have to deal with. We have costumes. We have obviously the game that's running the show that Jason Wishnoff built. Kudos to Iridium Studios for putting that awesome game together. And basically, I was just, even with all of the changes that we made this year, I was really happy with the way the show went together last year. When we first started working with USC, I reached out to them at the end of October, heard back at the beginning of November about availability. We booked the venue for the end of March, and they said, okay, have you done this before? And I said, yes, we did this last year at the end of March. You should have the contract. We're going to do the same exact thing. And they were like, great. And they emailed me back and they said, I'm going through the contract right now. I have specific questions, and I want to know the answers, yada, yada, to all these things. I want to dot the I's and cross the T's. At no point did they say, will you not be using cameras this year? They just took it off the list. So they sent me a contract, and I signed a contract and approved a contract where camera people were omitted. You have to understand that was on a 2-page list of itemized all of this crazy stuff. And so when this venue that was incredibly helpful last year comes back this year and says, good? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, hold on, there's a lot of new things we're doing this year. It didn't think to me. It's like going to McDonald's and you get a Big Mac that doesn't have buns. And you're like, what? And they're like, oh, did you want a bun on it? And you're like, yeah. Like a Big Mac. And they're like, oh, so you didn't specifically say. Like, well, I'm sorry. I just assumed. So it was so weird. I'm like going back through emails this whole weekend being like, what did I miss? And it's like, it's all there. You can see me there. I'm like, we're going to stream it through the venue, twitch.tv/EasyAllies. And they were like, you're streaming it? And so basically their assumption the entire time was that we were going to just do everything. We were going to record the audio. We were going to bring the cameras and set all that up. We were going to provide the live streaming tech, the PC that was going to run it. They weren't going to do, they were basically just going to sit there, light the stage and watch, which is so unbelievably far from the show that we did last year. And the frustrating thing too is even if we were going to do that, they never asked us what cameras we were bringing. They never asked us where we were going to put those cameras. We were talking about the seating arrangement. I don't know for people that were there last year and for people that were there this year. We changed the seating a lot. Last year, we kind of had lounge seating where you had chairs and tables, and it was just kind of confusing. People had to swivel their chairs around. So we're like, let's just do a standard chair setup this year. We'll just have rows of chairs and higher chairs in the back so people can see over the crowd. And at no point they were like, where are the cameras going to go? That would have been a red flag. I would have been like, we can't. What do you mean cameras? They're going to be in the back. People are going to be managing them. And like, oh wait, we're not providing cameras. Never asked, never inquired. USC the entire time basically kept emailing us and contacting us saying that you're doing this wrong. They're like, you didn't fill in this form. You didn't fill this thing out. We haven't gotten this information yet. Oh, by the way, here's this other thing that you have to do. And it was such an unbelievable night and day difference from last year to go from someone and I'll fall on the sword. My fault. I trusted them. Like I had a really great relationship with them last year. They were incredibly productive. I had a student that I worked with that was very eager to make this good, that understood our channel, that saw, Easy Allies, okay, and like your video game coverage, this is cool. I watch your podcast, it's neat. I was like, okay, great. And I was like, doesn't matter who we're working with this year. They have the contract. They have the blueprint for how the show did. They have the show. I sent them the show, which none of them clearly watched. I sent them the link. Here's the link to the show at your place. And like, no idea what I was talking about. I sent them the pilot of Mysterious Monsters when it launched. I sent them a stage diagram of where all the sets would be and where the mic would be. And I got there and they're like, so where does this all go? And it's like, I sent you an image. Like, we walked into the studio and the lights were off, and one of the tech people came out and was like, yeah, I don't know how to turn these on. It's like, okay. All right. The door was locked. We got there at 5, like knock, knock, knock. Hello. They open up the door. Who is it? Who is it? It's the it's the appointment. Like, come on. It was just so much of this. When we filled out the contract, they would send us things because this is a this is a student organization. It's on campus. And so a lot of times when they do events there, it's through students. And so there's a fine line between I'm not a student organization and I am. When we would get the operating agreement and it would say, you need all of these forms, I would fill out the form. I'd have to fax it to a professor at USC, get their approval, wait on that approval. Some of those professors were just gone. And so I had to like keep emailing them and keep contacting them and then finally get their response back and then fax that to USC. And they'd be like, why'd you send us this? I'm like, you asked for it. And they're like, oh no, you're not a student organization. You don't need to send us this. It's like, you wrote it down in black and white and demanded I send it to you. There's just so much of this. So I've made a whole list. I've been able to tell all of you this without even looking at this list. It's important for me to tell you that I'm not telling you this because I want to rant, even though this is kind of therapeutic. I'm telling you this because I mean, you deserve to know it because we hyped up this weekend a lot. You deserve to know why this stuff didn't happen. And I think I try to internalize a lot of the issues that we face here at Easy Allies because you show up here for entertainment purposes. We hear from a lot of people time and time again. They're like, I really enjoy spending time at Easy Allies. I really feel comfortable here. Watching your content, you make me happy. And so I don't want to spend a lot of time talking to you about reasons why Easy Allies is frustrating and things that go wrong and things that are bad. This last weekend was a trial. This last weekend probably health-wise was the worst I've ever felt since Easy Allies started. Thursday, I missed that group stream because I was so stressed. I passed basically the equivalent of an air bubble kidney stone because I was just so nervous memorizing the words for, Devil Trigger, spoiler, sorry. Curious if Mysterious Monsters was even going to work, if the game was going to work, if it was going to crash live. We were really nervous. Like, what if the community just goofs off in the game show and doesn't, it's like that was a lot of trust involved in bringing a lot of the contestants on stage. All of them were amazing. But we were nervous and there's just a lot of stuff to get nervous about. And I just knew it. Before I went to bed the night before, I was like, that shoe's going to drop. There's something going to go wrong. I know it. And sure enough, what blew my mind is they didn't even have audio equipment. So when we realized there were no cameras, I'm like, okay. And I go back to the staff, and the most painful thing is the staff on hand, none of who I talked with before the event. These are all the people that just hired to be there. So all the people that I dealt with via email, none of them were there, which is fine because they're the organizers. They don't necessarily have to be like the event tech people. The event tech people that were there were all very nice. So it was, you couldn't get mad at them. You couldn't show up, like promises were made. They were all like, sorry, we're paid to be here. Sorry. Or, and so we show up and we're like, okay, we have Sean and Sophia who have their cameras, they can shoot stuff. Can you at least record the audio? And they're like, no. It's like, you can't even record the audio. So we're like, okay. And Ian just happened to have his Zoom on hand. And we're like, okay, we have a Zoom here. We have a laptop. Can you plug either one of these in and put audio on that? And they're like, yeah, cool. They screwed that up. Half of that audio recording was not even there. The first 50% of it was quiet. So it's like, they didn't help. Like they were like, and there was so much confusion. When for Ian's number for the karaoke thing, I asked for a smoke machine. It was not provided. It was not like, they didn't know. Like they were like, wait, what? Smoke what? And I'm like, I paid for it, man. Like, it's like, you have no idea. Literally, you have no, like, I had to print out every single piece of information. I was handing out the rundown, which is like, here's the events of everything that we're going to do. And it was news to everybody. They were like, what's the, I've never seen this before. And it was like, I sent it. Like, I didn't have your emails. I would have sent it to you directly. We would have been having this conversation and not the event organizer, but I was never told who was going to be here or what they were going to be doing. They gave us the wrong directions. Completely wrong directions. The directions on their website, they said it was going to cost $10 at the door. It cost $12. They said to enter at gate whatever. That gate was closed. They knew that gate was going to be closed. The street they told us to come in on was wrong. The name of the parking structure they told us to park at was incorrect. Yeah, it was just unbelievable. It was just so many things. And it's not only the fact that, you know, people are frustrating to deal with and are incommunicative. It's frustrating when it's just like a constant thing that you have to do. We had to deal with the security firm. There was also a lot of stuff that we had to do that we didn't have to do last year. I had to get a food approval to have bottled water. It was like, what? We didn't have just brought bottled water last year. And they're like, no, you got to talk to, you know, whatever professor who handles, you know, the food, thing. Like, we had to get approval for things we weren't even using. We had to get approval. We had to get a security team because we were using cash at the merchandise table, which we just used cash last year. We didn't have to have any security person there. The security guy showed up and was like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. And I'm like, I don't know what you're doing here either. Like, USC asked us to be here. I spent $150 on a security guy who just stood there and watched us use cash. When I dealt with the security company, I reached out to them, and USC's like, you need to work with the security company. So I reach out to them, and they're like, what do you want us to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. USC asked me to contact you. Have you not worked with them before? And they were like, so what are like the specific details of what we're going to be doing at the concert? I'm like, stand there. I have no idea. Why don't you call USC and ask them what the parameters are for this event? Because they gave me no information. So they're like, okay. So then the security company sends me this form, and they're like, fax this back to us. So I get the form. I know fax machines are fairly archaic for a lot of you. I would not be surprised if 99% of the people listening to this right now have never used a fax machine in their life. But typically when you get a fax document, it'll have the number you're supposed to send it back to. So I get the document from them. It has a fax number on the top. It says, make sure you say, attention, this person, and fax it to this number. So I fill out the form, fax it to that number. When I fax it, I email the guy and I say, I faxed it to you. He replies to that email saying, oh, cool. Can you fax it to this number? I'm like, no, I already faxed it. Not only that, I faxed our credit card information. So I replied to him and I said, okay, I'll fax it to this number. Thanks for sending it to me. I don't know why you didn't send it to me in any of the 5 emails that we've corresponded previously to that, but that's besides the point. If you could please, like, shred the document that I sent to wherever, the form that, you know, the financial form you sent me, it said, please send this here. Wherever that is, whatever office that is, can you please contact them and tell them to dispose of that? Because I don't want to be charged twice. And he replied very snarkily, yeah, send it to the number I gave you. It's just like, I will not be surprised if a lot of you watching this or listening to this are like, oh God, Jones, Crimea River, events are hard. And like, I understand that. I don't want to dwell too much on this, but I need you to understand that every single step of the process of bringing Mysterious Monster Mash to you live was like that. Was just, I don't understand. I'm confused. It doesn't make sense. Need to clarify. USC kept harassing me to call them. They were like, we're trying to call you. You didn't pick up the phone. I'm like, yeah, no. Nobody called me. Like, nobody called me on my phone. I'm calling you out. Nobody called. Can you please call us right now? Okay. Beep, boop, beep, USC, answering machine. Like, all right, I'll try him later. Answering machine. Okay. I'll try him at 4:50, which is right before their office close. Answering machine. One time they were like, we're going to have a person in the office right now. They're in the studio. They're in the office right now. They are full-time. They will be at the phone. Please call them. Called them. Answering machine. It's like, I never called USC and someone picked up the phone. Not once. Like, and it's, the problem is, like, I don't want to disparage USC. I don't want to disparage Tommy's Place. I don't want to, I'm not in a campaign like to shame anybody. I'm just communicating this to you so you understand. And I didn't want to talk about the stuff leading up to the event because I didn't want to make you nervous about the event. We want these things to go well. This is not, like the type of stuff that you talk about leading up to something. I didn't even want to talk to the other allies about this. I think I made like 1 or 2 posts in Slack where I was like, I am just completely at my limit. Dealing with these people is so frustrating. And so, yeah, I think that's everything. And also, too, I mean, this is obviously no one's fault. But it just kind of compounds to the stress that we were dealing with that day. Jason Wishnoff, who built Mysterious Monsters and was running it from backstage expertly, was driving back from USC that day, and there was a massive pileup on the 5 freeway. So one of the 2 main thoroughfares going all the way down from San Francisco to Los Angeles was completely closed off, and he had to go an hour and a half, out of the way to get back home. It was just that kind of a day. I want to end this by talking about the future. And after we finished the first Easy Livin' and the second Easy Livin', I was immediately thinking about Back from GDC. Sorry. Did I not say GDC? Whatever. Blood said Back from GDC in chat. I'm not sure what it was referring to. Every time we finish an event, I'm immediately thinking about the next year. I started thinking about year 4 about 3 weeks ago. I started being like, you know what? I want to take the power back. I want to have more power in terms of controlling everything about the event. I'm tired handing that over to other people, because if we suffer for it, big deal. We have great jobs. If our community suffers for it, I will not stand for that. So I am so sorry that this happened. I apologize for hyping something up. I talk about hype all the time. We make fun of people for botching events, for not doing things live. We didn't even go live. I mean, it's one thing if you can talk about the issues that we had in our live show. We didn't even make it happen, technically. So I'll probably take it easy on Sony today, because I understand. Although it is a pre-recorded video, so there's that. What I wrote down is, you give us a lot of money. I want to make sure our stuff is good. So rest assured, year 4 will not be at Tommy's Place. Year 4 will likely not be a concert. I have a lot of fun ideas about year 4. It's been really exciting. The more this idea of an anniversary celebration has evolved, the more the community we've brought in. You know, it was really just us the first year, and then the second year, we brought in guest singers. We brought in, we did the trivia thing, which I think was kind of like the genesis for doing Mysterious Monsters live, was Damiani's music trivia last year, a music quiz, when we brought people up on stage. That was one of my favorite parts of last year's concert. And we were watching like our community thrive on stage and have fun interacting with us live in front of other members of the community. And I just kept thinking like, yes, this is it. This is what I want to do. I don't want to like get on stage and then be like, okay, fans, get over there. Okay, we did our thing. All right, I'm really nervous. Okay, we all got to go home. Bye, everybody. And then like show up at the park like exhausted the next day. I want to be smarter about, not necessarily smarter, but I want to create an event that gives us more time to hang out with our wonderful fans and to really enjoy ourselves, instead of being really nervous or putting all of our eggs in one basket and then somebody just throws that basket out the window. So I am not disenfranchised at all when it comes to Easy Allies following this event. If anything, I'm just more hungry to plan for E3, plan for Easy Livin', look forward to other features and events that we can do, and just do anything that has nothing to do with Mysterious Monsters or our anniversary event, because we are finally past it. But yeah, those are all the gory details. Apologies if that was ranty. Apologies if that was whiny. Apologies if you yourself are a video or event producer and you're just like, I don't know, man, it sounds like par for the course. It might be. Certainly, there's a possibility of things going wrong whenever you deal with a third party, and I accept 100% full responsibility for not going through all of those contracts. I am a film and theater major. I am not a big contract guy. Maybe I trust too much. In this case, I certainly did, and I think you guys bore the brunt of that a little bit. So if I haven't apologized enough, there it is. There's my formal apology for not picking up the fact that they just naturally assumed, for no reason whatsoever, despite my initial requests and information that I provided to them, along with the show itself. One of the things, there was like a check box when I first submitted like a request to reserve the space. And there was one check box that amuses me so much when I look back at it now, that says, have you done this event previously at USC? Yes. It's fun to look back at that now. It's like, why is that box checked? Who cares? Why do you care? Why do you even need that information if what we did last year bears no reference whatsoever, will not inform you at all in terms of what we're doing this year. And it was fun. Okay. I'm probably going to remember things more and more as we go along, but I just want to leave with one fun thing, which again plays into the fact that the staff that was there while we were doing the show was absolutely wonderful, and nothing but love and respect to those beautiful people that helped us actually pull off the event in the roughshod way that we did. But one of the people there was there last year, and they were one of the people that walked up and were like, "What's the problem?" And I was like, "We were supposed to have cameras. We're live streaming this event." I communicated that on several occasions, and no one ever corrected me or asked for clarification. They were all like, "Got it." And the person was like, "Oh yeah." It came back to them all of a sudden. They were like, "I remember that." I imagine them like seeing Bossman and being like, "Right." You were those weirdos that like were in costume and stuff and like sang about Puke Puke. Yeah. So that was kind of funny, that moment. And you could see her being like, "We definitely shot that. That was live streamed, wasn't that?" We were like, "Yes, it was." So again, it's me just saying Easy Allies live streaming. She was like, "Oh," and no one else did that. No one else in a 5-month period had that kind of recollection. It was like, let me just watch the event from last year. Let me just ask somebody who was there and see what's going on. It's like they took the information that I gave them and did nothing with it, and then kept asking me for more stuff. And we're like, "Call us." Click. All right. There we go. Business questions. Are we too late with business questions? How long did that take? 40 minutes? Oh my God. But it's going to happen. Yeah, there's some people who are like, "You take them to court, bring them to Judge Judy." There's nothing legally going on. We paid for the services that were provided to us, but they were not the services we asked for. Okay. "Oh, did you want bacon on your BLT?" Like, yes. Bacon. Get a good sip from the cup. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for helping us get to 3 years. I feel really good about Easy Allies. I was dumping stuff off at the studio, all our monitors and stuff like that we used this weekend. Monitors! They said there were TV monitors all over the place. Oh, there's all these TV monitors on front of the stage. No, they're not. They're audio monitors. They knew we were talking about TV monitors. I said you were going to be able to see things on them. She was like, "Oh, we got monitors." Audio monitors. Just so much of that. Like, just watch the show. Are you not listening? Sometimes it gets raw here on Cup of Jones. And things are going to go... What about the fog machine you paid for? Yeah, I'm not taking somebody to court over a fog machine. Exhibit A, the fog machine. Also, I don't want to actually show you contracts. I should have stacked them up before I had this rant. I'm not even kidding, like over 100 pages of like stuff I printed out, filled out, faxed, sent to other people. Whereas last year, they just took care of everything. It was unbelievable. I don't know if stuff changed policy-wise in terms of what goes on there, but you will not have to worry about that anymore. Allies, I will never ask you to set foot on a college campus ever again for the remainder of Easy Allies, as long as I'm in charge. Oh, let's take a big break so I can see the audio waveforms and get prepped for business questions. Here we go. Business questions. Alex Castellanos. So let's get into it, Jones. What happened on Saturday? What were these technical difficulties that you encountered? There you go. Discarded Digit. Today my question is about sponsors. I know that you don't like going into the details about finances, so I'll keep it simple. Trust Gaming. Are they only providing equipment to EZA, or is there an additional payment on top of the equipment? Yes. The second one, you could also consider moving the commercial break to the 1 hour mark of the group stream, if at all possible. I think that would flow better. If you ever see sponsor anything, if we ever talk about sponsors of Frame Trap or the Easy Allies podcast, or exploring other sponsorship opportunities moving forward, that will hopefully be in place soon. When you see sponsors of our group stream, we can't just bump it to the 1 hour mark. We have like that. All of that is very specifically designed by the sponsor. And sponsors of our group stream are interesting because there's no one way to do it. A lot of the sponsors that we dealt with, a lot of the promotional stuff that we've dealt with during group streams, it's very experimental. Where it's tough to gauge the worth to us, the worth to our community, and the worth to our sponsors until we do it. And so, doing the Studio Ghibli giveaways and doing the work with Trust Gaming, we're just kind of testing the waters there. Trust Gaming won't be around for much longer. You primarily got all equipment and the chairs, this mic, which doesn't work, but or work correctly. I had some complaints from people last week that they're like, the audio is not good, Jones. So I will be replacing this mic in the near future, or figuring out what the heck is going on, because everything else works great with my PC. This is the first thing that's gone wrong. The Hogue Law Business Law Clock, says Hogue. That's right, forgot about that one. But yeah, with Trust Gaming, there was we were paid by Trust Gaming, and we were also received a bunch of fun equipment as well. So that answers that one. Brandon K. Gann, I'm curious about your take on the level of interest Easy Allies gets regarding repeat suggestions and how much of a factor it is when determining what to do next. This comes in response when you were answering a question a while back regarding Brandon Sword Kyle Shield, aka a non-existing and currently not ever happening show idea. Is there a metric, whether it be an amount of times requested, how persistent community members ask about said idea, or something else? Easy Allies is before looking into a Easy Allies has before looking into a given idea that people want. Maybe to ask it another way, is there a threshold or breaking point where if enough people are wanting a show, Easy A decides to discuss it amongst themselves? Let's stop right there. No. I've said this before, and I want to make this clear. This sounds kind of cocky and pompous, but we're not going to do something solely because our fans want us to do it. That would sound like the way this business maybe should work, but we are in the business of entertainment. You know, we're in the business of creating informative and entertaining content, and because so much of what we do is not scripted, the vast majority of what we do is not scripted, almost 100% of the stuff that we do is not scripted, then we need to be into it. We need to be really excited about it. We need to be enthusiastic. Like, Mysterious Monsters wouldn't have worked if I was like, Ian, do Mysterious Monsters. Like, Ian really wanted to do that. He was thrilled. We were both stressed as hell pulling the whole thing off, but it was exciting to do. It's been an absolute thrill to turn things around and be positive. I had a lot of fun this weekend, and Michael Huber, man, is just so much fun to watch. I don't want to blow up his ego too much, but it's such a thrill to watch him do the Mysterious Monster Mash. And so, you know, think about it like, you know, like in Dragon Ball, if like they're shooting lasers at each other and the lasers are going back and forth, like Dumbledore, Voldemort and Harry Potter, you know, like it's this, 50-yard line that keeps the scrum, if you will, that keeps shifting back and forth between this is what our community wants versus this is what we want. This is what our community is willing to financially support us to produce versus this is how much time we have and how much we're able to produce. And sometimes our community thinks of great ideas and we end up doing them. Sometimes we create content completely on our own just to surprise people. The Western musical was not something anyone specifically asked for. That was just something that Ian was inspired to do. And so I can't think of anything we have ever done that was done solely because our audience requested it, and I don't think we've ever done anything because it was in terms of how many people asked. And yes, I was about to divulge a little bit more on that and go on a bit into editorial, but maybe I'll save that for later. Does EZA currently or have done a podcast, show, stream, etc., primarily because people wanted it? No. Oft requested things, another Final Bossman, Brandon Kyle plays, the newest Pokemon, etc., to me, feel like they get brought up a little too often, and I've been curious to your thoughts about consistent interest level on any given project specifically. Hopefully that answers your question. Maybe we can get into more specifics, Brandon, next week if it does not. And somebody else asked this as well. We are getting close to needing like an Easy Allies Cup of Jones FAQ. And I'm curious where would the best place to put that be, whether it be the forums, maybe we make a page on our website and put that there. If I would like make just a Patreon post that you can go and check that I consistently update, or if that would be very difficult to find. I want to find a good place to go that it's very easy to find it. And we can keep adding to that. Because yeah, we're getting to that point where I don't have too many questions. I actually don't have a lot of questions this weekend because I think everybody was on vacation last week, in LA or otherwise. Yeah, we'll see. Michael Berube. The panel was theorizing that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order would be revealed at E3, but EA has already confirmed, and I knew this, Michael, and I apologize that I forgot, that there will be a dedicated press conference for the game streamed during Star Wars Celebration on April 13th. Do the Allies plan to stream live reactions to it? We have not put that in the calendar, but hell yeah, I will be there. I totally forgot that's going to happen. I'm very pessimistic on what they're going to show. I think it is going to be 100% CG, but I am curious to talk about it, and I will definitely try to be arm in arm with my good Star Wars buddy Brad Ellis and sit down and get into it. Will Sifo Dyas reveal himself? Jesse Abraham, maybe it's on my end, but the audio was really bad over headphones on this one, meaning the last episode of Cup of Jones. My apologies. Very frustrating to have audio not be good, considering this is a USB cable that's plugging into that PC. It's as simple as that. There's no crazy software that's doing this. This microphone is not operating in any way different than any microphone we have ever used via USB in the history of Easy Allies. So, again, Trust Gaming has been a wonderful sponsor, but Mike, you're having problems. Not you, Michael Baroob. Microphone. Cash. To be honest, I've never noticed the light bar flickering. Doesn't seem like a big deal. The light bar flickering is in reference to the top panel of our LED lights on our stage. Oh, Blood put that on the calendar last night. Thanks, Blood. I'm assuming you mean the Star Wars celebration, so sweet. Yeah, let's react to that, please. We also have a meeting at the end of every month where we schedule stuff for the next month. So sometimes you get near the end of the month and you're like, wait, there's this thing happening 1 or 2 weeks into April or May or whatever, and we haven't got an update on that. It's because we've talked about it internally, but a lot of times we don't necessarily cement those things unless it's like a big event like E3 until the end of the month when we plan the next month of content. Maybe in the future we'll get a little bit better at doing that stuff earlier and earlier, but 1 month is enough in terms of planning ahead. Jesse Blue, I've noticed that based on recent comments, a lot of the patrons feel left out of the group stream. What do you think of choosing a few game options and posting a patron poll to determine the group stream pick, and have an option for patrons to post in the comments the other games they'd like to see the allies play? You wouldn't necessarily have to pick the highest scoring game, but it would give the patrons, number 1, give the patrons a feeling of interacting with the allies, and 2, give the allies a list of games patrons want to see. Sure, that's an interesting idea. I in terms of audience interaction with the group stream, I don't want to do anything at all, anything that we say is going to be the norm moving forward for every group stream. What you just suggested, Jesse, is a good idea and is something we could potentially do like once. You know, like we're like, oh, we have a stream coming up. We just have no ideas. We looked ahead at the gaming landscape. We're like, there's no group thing we could play. We don't want to just be uncreative and just break out Jackbox or something. Like, we're actually kind of stumped. We don't know. We don't have any ideas for the next group stream. So then we want to hand that over to the community. I'm also not in a rush to do something like that because the very last Tuesday night group stream that we did, the community was very much involved. The community steered that entire show. And so it does happen. We will, I think, be inspired more and more about ideas that do incorporate our community. It's just something that I don't want to promise. And then, because again, the flip side of that is, say a game comes up and we're like, oh, we really want to stream it. And then it's like, well, wait, the second Tuesday of every month is this community focused thing. And then we're like, oh, damn, because the Battlefield, Firestorm came out and it's a no brainer. We should do that. Apologies if patrons are feeling left out of group streams, and we will work to not only bring you more of that, but creatively incorporate community involvement in ways that we haven't done before. Robert Figueroa, I know that this has been answered before, but an interesting way to start a Cup of Jones question. I guess you missed the answer, but is EZA thinking of ways thinking of alternatives from Patreon in case something happens to Patreon? That would be a classic frequently asked questions entry. Yes, there are things that we can do. They would be more expensive. And 2 things would negatively affect Easy Allies if Patreon went down. 1, we'd be making less money. And 2, I would probably stop producing content. One of us would have to go straight business. One of us would have to not appear on any podcasts, not edit any shows, not do anything but business, because we would now be in charge of merchant services. We would now be in charge of processing credit cards. There's so much that Patreon does on the back end that we don't have to think about at all. And we would have to do all of that. We would have to handle refunds. We would have to, you know what I mean? Like that's a huge business thing. It's possible. I've done it before. I've set up those things. Just takes time, takes money. And there would probably be like like when GT folded and EZA came back, I think it was 5 weeks. It would probably be about that long. It would probably be about a dry month. Like our YouTube channel would still be going we would still be able to pay rent because we do have savings, but it would be interesting. There would be a stutter. There would be a speed bump for sure. Alexander Zirianov, I must admit that I'm not entirely happy with recent Patreon goal changes announcements. I feel that you unchained Mysterious Monsters and lowered down live guest show. Excuse me. Only because you needed to have some good news to kill retrospectives. I'm bummed to hear you say that, Alex, because we have stated that we finished Mysterious Monsters because we wanted to do it. We didn't do that as to make I mean, we hoped it would make our audience happy, but we really wanted to produce that show. Not just it sends the wrong message. If you don't give Easy Allies enough resources, they will do it anyway, but it puts much more pressure on you. Imagine sudden growth to 55K. I'm sorry, I'm just imagining sudden growth to 55K. Hold on a second. Okay. Which can happen given that it's your anniversary. And you will be suddenly obliged to run the show in April with only an additional $3K to spend on it to run the tech. Please tell me that you've thought about that stuff and have an emergency plan in case it actually happens. I wouldn't call it an emergency. Getting more money is not an emergency at Easy Allies. Getting more funding, hitting more goals, getting more support, getting more outreach, getting the resources to produce more things is not an emergency. It's stressful. It's busy. It can be nerve-wracking sometimes, but when we talked about dropping that down to 55K, I wasn't like, what? No. And they were like, we're doing it, Jones, and you're going to host it. No. I was like, 55 sounds great. 58 sounded great. 58 was really far away. 58 was kind of like the studio in terms of like, let's put those goalposts way down there so people can see where we're going. What can we do at the studio, and what does that represent? And that was the whole idea about having that live show be the top tier. It's not something we can do right now. It's not something that is really a front burner. Like the tech. We eventually want to do live reactions in the studio. We don't have the tech set up for that yet. Live reactions are fun to do in the streaming space. It works, so we're not stressed about it. Like we'll get to that eventually, setting up those things, because I think you've seen our coverage of E3. We do reactions on the desk, and so we will at the very least get that tech up and running by E3. But we're just not in a rush to do it. We would be in a rush, and we would allocate different resources to it if we were to hit that goal. And we certainly didn't throw you Mysterious Monsters to make up for not doing retrospectives. Not doing retrospectives was something that we thought of doing for a very long time. And it is nice sometimes, I guess, to give your consumers, your customers, a little bit of sugar to help the medicine go down. But at the same time, that was just not the reason for all of those things. But you do raise an excellent point, Alexander, which is... if you don't, you said it sends the wrong message. If you don't give Easy Allies enough resources, they will do it anyway. That I file into a category of ongoing concerns with running a business that is crowd-funded by a group of thousands of people, because there's always that concern. What if our patronage drops when we move into the studio? What if moving into the studio sends a wrong message? People tune in and they miss the whole fact that we're going to a studio, and they see us and they're like, whoa, they're in this nice thing. Well, they don't need my money anymore. What if that happened? And it didn't. We went up. We didn't go down. What if, anytime we do any sort of change to our production timeline or our goals or anything, there's always the concern of like, does this make us look bad? Does this disenfranchise people? Does this, take a little bit of the air out of the balloon in terms of like that building of excitement and creativity and possibility and the goals of this company. And so, we're always thinking of that. And so, that's a valid concern, but it's, I don't know necessarily it sends the wrong message, and I don't know if I'm being insensitive or if this is something that I should be worried about, but I'm not concerned. I think it's the first time we've ever done that. Mysterious Monsters is a very unique case. It was the kind of thing where we were developing it to a point. I don't know if somebody asks about Mysterious Monsters later on, but I'll kind of get into a little bit about the specifics of why we just did it, because we needed the game. And so we had to pay Iridium Studios a fair amount of money because they were developing a video game. And so, and they did that at an extremely cheap price. Thank you very much, Iridium Studios and Jason Wishnoff. And so there was only so far we could develop that show before having the game. And if the game didn't function, then the idea wouldn't work and it would be a bad goal. So we're like, well, let's just get the game going, and then we'll know that works. And then we needed art for that. So like, okay, well, now we'll get the actual monsters and get those created. Well, then conceptually, now we need to think of what monsters we need. And now that we have the monsters, well, we need to think of trivia to make the game function. And then now we need to have all of these abilities and have those worked in. Now we need items for those abilities. And like, wow, we kind of have it. It's like the game's kind of done now. We're kind of ready. And we've already spent a lot of that money that would have got us up to that goal, because We want this to be a part of our concert. We want, to do a temp episode to sell to people, to show them. And as we created the temp episode, it was like, we are literally 5 steps away from just being done. Let's just do it. And because we're so excited. So that was kind of how that process worked. Andrew Burt, I had some follow-up questions and comments related to my GTA 5 question. This is a personal question. Sorry, Andrew. This is a personal question. Grand Theft Auto, that's very personal. It's totally a personal question. I've been doing this a lot. I've been throwing personal questions into business where they don't belong. And I don't know if that's the first personal question that was asked, but I'm going to put that right on top of the personal questions. Sorry. Okay. But Alexander, thank you for your honesty. I appreciate that. A lot of crowdfunding has to do with tone. Where is this company at? Where is it going? And so if you're nervous, if we make announcements and you're like, I'm nervous about that. I don't think that was perceived the way you think it was going to be. I want to hear it. Straw Hat Ninja, has there been any talk about getting an Easy Allies mobile or company car for the allies to use when they go on long trips or need to travel for work? Hell no. A car is the most expensive thing I can think of to spend money on that we would use the least. With insurance and upkeep and everything, even if we got like a hybrid that just fixes itself, but at the same time, like, do I want the Easy Allies mystery machine? Like, of course, do I want the A-Team? I mean, it would probably look like the A-Team vehicle because our colors are red, white, and black. Just have the streak with Easy A in the back. And like we were talking about chat beforehand. Blood said that he has to leave in a little bit because he's going to be dropping off the shop, literally the shop. If you see Mysterious Monsters, like that set piece is in his car right now. He's got his van, and I can't believe this. I was so stressed. And I'm singing Devil Trigger like the whole time we were preparing for the show. I didn't think once about him. I can't even remember her name, but like him being in the van. Like we got that neon sign. We should have just attached that to Blood's van. But imagining Blood is like this Resident Evil 4 shopkeeper who just drives around in the Easy Allies mobile. Straw, I can't tell if you're trolling or what, but that's so funny. I mean, hey, goals. 100K goal, the Easy Allies mobile. Definitely top down. It's just gonna be me and Huber riding around. Easy Allies. Dark Pikachu. Easy Allies reacts to Easy Allies was great. I read some comments that said that their submitted clips were not in there. Mine was also not in there. So I guess you have quite a few clips that you have left that you have not reacted to, right? Any chance we're getting a reaction to these in the near future? Not in the near future, but this is fun. Might be something we revisit annually. I don't know. That went well. We haven't done a post-mortem on it, so I can't make any promises for the future, but we'll see what the allies thought. We'll see if they enjoyed it. I had a blast. I really, really, really enjoyed that stream. That was great. It's interesting watching a stream like that and waiting for yourself, because we didn't know what each clip was going to be, and so we're like, okay, let's watch the next one, and it pops, and it's just like, oh, it's me. And it's like, what did I do? And it's like, oh, everybody loves sticks. Everyone adores sticks. Like, okay, yeah, haha. That was a good memory. I don't think I had one clip of myself doing something good. I don't think, there was a lot of beats where Kyle was doing something funny. I think every time I was on screen, it was because I got something wrong. Daniel Garza Andrade. I think removing retrospectives was a good call. Thank you, Daniel. Do them if you have the time, the will man, and the manpower. Otherwise, it would be a disaster. On that thought, maybe do a new goal to hire an editor or a technical personnel. I know that you have enough creative minds, so it's the next logical step in my opinion. I am opposed to hiring people based on Patreon goals, as a rule. I don't want to hire somebody and then fire them later because our patrons decided to, I don't want to be like, ooh, we dipped below that goal. Sorry. But if you could come back a month later, maybe if we hit that goal, that'd be great. Like, you can't do that with human beings. Like, you can't do that with somebody's salary, with somebody's job. So if we are to hire somebody, that'll be just out of resources that we are already getting. But it's exciting to think about the possibility of maybe later this year or sometime in the near future, bringing someone in that's not full-time, but bringing someone in to work on a specific project. It's exciting to think that improvements to the studio vastly outrank that in terms of immediacy. So that is something that is still pretty far down the road, but I can kind of see it in the future. Megan Linhart. This might be a little far out yet, but Sega revealed in February that Catherine Full Body would be releasing this September. They seem to have been adding a lot of stuff to it, including a whole new story. Are there any plans to review it at all when it's released? Not remakes, but like ports and stuff like that, like remasterings and collector's editions and stuff. Very rare that we review those as Easy Allies, so I would say the odds are probably not good, but you never know, and it really isn't until the month before, so it would only be like in August, at the end of August, that we would actually 100% confirm that we're doing something, because that's when we look at the whole gaming thing, and the gaming thing meaning the release date schedule, and then think like, oh, So Days Gone is something that I am reviewing big time. Hopefully it doesn't get delayed. That's coming out we're just a couple weeks away from Days Gone. But something, September away. It's like that might get delayed. September's... starting in September, it's always review season, and we'll see. And some people talking about Don't Skip. I've actually seen the words Don't Skip pop up a lot in chat, and Don't Skip is something I would like to see come back. There's one way to do that, Jones. Make a Don't Skip. I know, Jones. I know. Cash, I was just curious about your experience with Spreadshirt so far. Was it complicated setting up the store? Are the costs and prices manageable, etc.? I'm exploring options from merch stores, so would appreciate your thoughts. Sure. The only downside I would say to Spreadshirt would be the quality of the shirts themselves. They're not fantastic. It's not necessarily something, if you aren't like picky when it comes to shirt quality, you probably won't notice, but in going to different people, in working with Spreadshirt and working with Fangamer, and in the case of the Mysterious Monster MASH shirts that we had available this weekend exclusively at the show, that probably will be available at other events in the future, because we did not sell all of them. When we work with a company that just prints shirts and then ships them to us, we've noticed a range of different qualities in terms of how logos are printed, how colors are printed. And that's kind of like the one downside to Spreadshirt is it is very like the initial Easy Ally shirt, which if you notice, I don't wear a lot anymore because it's kind of fallen into disrepair. But everything else that you said is absolute thumbs up. Was it complicated setting up the store? No. Are the costs and prices manageable? Totally. You're not just going to be swimming in cash. Like it's not like, forget Patreon, we can just coast on our Spreadshirt money. Granted, we don't necessarily advertise or update Spreadshirt a lot. Oh, by the way, there's a new shirt. We were putting all this stuff together for the concert, and I was watching the intro to Mysterious Monsters, and Ian put together a very spooky version of the Easy Allies logo. It's kind of all wiggly, and I was like, that's cool. And I was like, I would wear that on a shirt, just that spooky Easy Allies logo. And so I DM'd Ian on Slack, and I said, hey, what if you took that logo and instead of red on the right and red on the top bar, it was purple? And he just replied back, done. So I'm going to buy that shirt and I'm going to wear it. I think that shirt's cool. So if you go to Spreadshirt, there's that shirt. It's Easy Allies logo, but it looks spooky. So yeah, shirt shadow drop. There you go. Which, of course, we only did because we took away the retro goal on our Patreon. Happy gaming. Yes. Happy gaming with excellent questions so far. Happy gaming has not been a part of Cup of Jones for a while. Jumped in maybe 3 or 4 months back, and it's just had solid questions, Happy Gaming. With Patreon updating their service and site to a 3-tier system, Patreon Lite, Pro, and Premium, I wanted to see if there would be any structural changes to the way Easy Allies uses the platform. No. To my understanding, with the email I received, there will be no changes to current creators. So if you already put your content up through Patreon, you will automatically be made a Pro member with tiers, analytical insight, etc. Premium, the tier above Pro, is the tier for established creative businesses with a large following, plus premium features. The premium features include merch for patrons, a dedicated partner program, and team accounts. While I don't quite grasp what exactly the features are, other than merch, with the premium tier being invite only for its beginning run, I know there is a chance that it will not be adopted immediately. However, is this new structure something everyone is interested in adopting in the future? Would these premium features bring positive impacts to the way Easy Allies puts out content? Or would it be better to just stick at the Pro tier because it's where Patreon members and companies will be after the change is made regardless? I don't know. It's an interesting thing because we work through other platforms. Primarily, our 3 big platforms are Patreon.com, YouTube.com, and Twitch.tv. And those sites are doing fun stuff. They right now there's a YouTube what is it called? YouTube Studio beta, the Creator Studio it used to be called. Now it's the YouTube Studio. I had to go back to the Creator Studio because I couldn't find live streaming this morning. I was like in the YouTube Studio. I'm like live streaming. Where is that? Anyway, Blood does not see any need to change to the higher tiers. So yeah, we talk about need. It's very rare that new tech is adopted and we like leap on it. This service that I'm using right now, YouTube live streaming that Patreon works through, we didn't necessarily jump on right away. And so because we are crowdfunded, because we have an ongoing community and we are uploading content every single day, or we try to, it's scary to adopt something immediately, like right when it changes. And so it's nice to just give it a little bit of time, let everybody get the gremlins out of the system, and then we can give it a shot if it's working for everybody. It also helps, like you said, it's invite only, and so it helps to talk to other companies that have had experience with this new technology. But we never want to be dependent on something, and we never want to, like I was saying earlier at the top of this Cup of Jones episode, put too many eggs in a basket and give somebody the chance to, smash it against a wall. So if we were going to adopt a new tech, especially something that, like you said, is going to change up the whole process of this Patreon, we want to make sure it works. We want to make sure it's something that's going to help us. We want to make sure all 9, every last ally is on board, and that it makes sense for us. Dale Payne, what was the thought process behind bringing Mysterious Monsters forward beyond just being excited? Sorry, Dale, I already asked this question, I think. You had a monetary goal in the past, but you don't need it now? I mean, we always need it. But there was just no reason to wait. We had the resources, and we basically the timeline for the last 4 months. And I know it seems like we've been in the studio a lot, but basically we got the studio in December, we moved in January, and then it was all concert. It was all Mysterious Monsters. It was all, let's get as much as we can for the studio. And then we spent so much money. January, I think, was the first month ever in the history of EZA where we spent every cent that we could have. I mean, we looked under couches. We just were like, let's get everything in the studio that we possibly can. And then February's budget was kind of 50-50. It was like maintaining the studio, fixing some stuff. We got the sound equipment that didn't show up until the beginning of March, and then we started. We knew that we were going to do Mysterious Monsters at the concert. We didn't necessarily know we were going to bump that goal up. We didn't make that decision finally until the end of February, but we knew we wanted to take money, spend it on Mysterious Monsters, and so there's all sorts of furniture that I can't wait. I might buy it today. Today's a very busy day. Maybe I won't. I might buy it tonight, but I'm excited to spend like $300 to $500 on furniture. Like it. We probably had that money, but I just wanted to play it safe. So it was like, let's just save as much as we can. So we kept a lot of openings for funding Mysterious Monsters, which then in turn helped us with our show that we were going to be doing at the end of March. So it was a win-win. It just, like we said, we had such a fun reaction from our community and from ourselves, put a big smile on our face to incorporate more of our community in the actual show. And so when Ian suggested, wait a minute, what if we do Mysterious Monsters at the concert, and what if we have the contestants be our community? And it was just like, yes. By the way, it was my idea to have 9 contestants. So I talked to a lot of people at the meetup yesterday that were like, I wanted to be a contestant. I'm like, I'm sorry. I wish everybody could have. Maybe we'll do another Mysterious Monsters, not at an anniversary, but at some time in the future, and we can bring our fans into it. Maybe we'll have one fan episode of Mysterious Monsters, or do that once or twice a year. So it was, which is, again, why it was so unbelievably frustrating for it not to be live streamed, because we really did put a lot of work into that show, wanting to make it good. So, yeah, there we go. And I talked about it a little bit before. Hopefully that answers your question, Dale. Michael Wilson, you guys have something special with Mysterious Monsters. Thank you, Michael. When I watched it on Twitch, I realized that watching a game show with live Twitch chat is an experience I haven't had before, and one that I will be craving until the next episode. Will you guys be doing Twitch premieres of new episodes scheduled at a regular time? That makes sense. I'm going to make that a takeaway, actually. Do that. Totally makes sense to just do all of those live. I use Google Docs now, and I still hit Control S to save it. And it's like, you don't save it, it's Google Docs. You don't save it, Jones. It's Google Docs. Will you guys be doing Twitch premieres, new episodes scheduled at a regular time? If new episodes just get dumped onto YouTube as they're available, I'll still watch and enjoy them, but it would be better to enjoy these with a crowd of other fans, particularly as time goes on and you're able to bring in more surprise guests for new episodes. I think premiering on Twitch does hurt our YouTube views a little bit, but whatever. I think it makes sense. I think it's a lot of fun. A lot of people are saying yes, 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 yes in chat. So that seems, yeah, fun idea. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Andreas Klinthos. PlayStation announced they're doing State of Play on Monday 25th. Do you think that will be like a Nintendo Direct? And what are you expecting, hoping to see? This is kind of more of a personal question, but we want to promote the stream that will be immediately following this episode of Cup of Jones. I need to head to the office in about 2 hours to be there, attend that. I don't know if Blood is still here. Blood, I might be a little late, so hopefully you don't need my assistance in setting up that stream today. But what am I expecting to see? Okay, expecting, hoping to see. Those are different things. I'll give you one of each. So I don't take too much time answering this question because we're going to be talking a lot about that more today, especially before the stream starts. I am expecting to see... Be nice to get a Dreams release date. I'm expecting a Dreams release date. If we don't get a release date for Dreams, I will be very surprised because they said spring. I'm expecting it to be after Days Gone. I think it'll be the end of April or the beginning of May when that $30 non-story limited tools like paid beta comes out. Sucks because IGN's probably going to review it, which they have every right to, but like I'm definitely not going to review Dreams until we get the full package. Yeah, I expect that. Hoping Avengers. Be nice to find out what the hell's going on with that. Expecting a new IP, an actual live or no, it's not live, but obviously Ghost of Tsushima. I think that's probably Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us, probably like little updates on those. I don't know if we would get gameplay of Last of Us. I think we're due for more story. I think we'll probably get a story, a cutscene. I mean, in game, but I think we'll probably get a story cutscene for Last of Us. But I think we need a little. I need more gameplay of Tsushima. I would be very surprised if Days Gone is in it at all. We'll probably just get like a launch trailer or something. But like they're already in post preview. We got quoted in the latest Days Gone trailers. If you didn't know that, if you haven't seen that. I said, I'm really excited about this game. And the funny thing about, before I move on to the next question, the hilarious thing about that quote, if you see that if a quote in the trailers for Days Gone of us saying, it's me, my quote, I say, I am really excited for this game or something like that. I said that in the preview after ragging on the game for like 15 minutes. For like 15 minutes, I said like the visuals have issues. The guns, really don't feel that powerful. The blood splatters not that great. Like there's just some issues. And I said, all that said, I'm really excited for this game. And they grabbed that quote. Quotes are fun. So it's the context is a little interesting, but it's not disingenuous. When I see I'm really excited for this game in a trailer, I am the ally to come to in terms of being excited for Days Gone. That is definitely one of my most anticipated games next to Dreams. Before we get to E3, Red Sky. With the anniversary goal changes announced this past Tuesday, I was wondering if you were able to provide more insight and broad strokes on the direction you and the other allies are wanting to take Easy Allies heading into year 4. Whew. You've teased some functionality and would like to implement such as communication between the two stages and being able to stream on the main stage, but is there anything you can tease that you wouldn't necessarily be dependent on future technologies being implemented? You've mentioned new content such as the upcoming live guest show and E3 coverage, but what do you see as the motivators to keep Patreon moving forward towards these future production capabilities while you balance the current production load? Since Mysterious Monsters has moved ahead of schedule into live production, I wasn't sure how budget is balanced for future goals compared to the current schedule. Yeah, budget comes into terms with, for two reasons, really, with the live guest show. One, there's tech, there's equipment that we have to buy. Basically, what happened when we moved into the studio, because we previously had a PC set up with mixers and everything that did everything. And then we had to separate. It's like when cells separate. We had to move half of the tech to the streaming stage, move half of the tech to the main stage. And then we looked at both and we're like, what are we missing? And the main stage was like, we're missing the streaming capability, whatever. We'll add that later. What are we missing in here? Oh, a mixer. We're missing, something to control the lights. And so then we went on and purchased that stuff. The equipment that we will need to make a live guest show possible, we'll basically need to make both of those computers in both of those rooms capable of doing the exact same thing. And that's not only expensive, but will involve training with the allies to make sure that they do that. It'll make the process a little more complicated in using both of those spaces. So that is why that is going to take a bit. Sorry, Red Sky, if I don't have more specifics here. We are just, it's like the Monday after the concert this weekend. So, but we are, and I'm not, that doesn't mean next Monday I'm going to show up with all sorts of new goals and new announcements and things like that. Like that stuff is something that we want to get to as soon as possible. But this end of March was a milestone for this company. It was a big event. It was a big week. And so now what you're talking about is a big part of the process moving forward. We don't have a lot of big events coming up before E3. We don't have a lot of things that are going to need to demand attention or going to like take one ally away from working on other things. So it is a really good time to start to workshop new goals, to start to look at the space creatively and critically, and figure out what we can do moving forward. The air conditioning broke in the streaming room. We got to fix that. So there's a lot of upkeep that's involved. And then we will get to that point where we will explain what the future is going to be and what we can do moving forward. I really got nothing to tease. Like, again, we talk about guests. That's obviously part of the guest show, and we want to bring those people in. But other stuff is so conceptual that I think I'd be disingenuous and be doing a disservice to you all watching and listening to this, and to our Patreon to suggest something that may not happen because I bring it up to the other allies and they're like, nah, Johns, we hate that idea. And it's like, oh, sorry I said that. Sorry I said that live on Cup of Jones. Tyler Manning, what's up with spoiler mode? There isn't anything listed on the website and I can't find anything on Patreon. Last episode was Russian Dolls in February. I know you guys are busy with the 3-year, so if spoiler mode was just skipped for that, that's all good. Just curious to know. I was hoping to see a couple allies throw down on Devil May Cry 5. I don't think a lot of the allies have finished Devil May Cry 5. I don't know. I haven't played Devil May, I mean, aside from the group stream, I haven't played DMC 5. And so I don't know if I know there are some spoilers, but I don't know if those are big enough to talk about like what the story did and where the story's moving forward. I don't know how spoiler mode-ish Devil May Cry 5 is. There's also Captain Marvel. We talked about doing that. I think maybe the full playthrough Friday. Which I didn't talk about. We're playing Uncharted Lost Legacy. We're playing it this Friday. We'll talk about that more, obviously, Tuesday night, tomorrow night in our group stream. But that will be our first full playthrough Friday. Will be Uncharted Lost Legacy. Michael Huber will definitely be there, and he will be accompanied by other people as well. So, we wanted to make sure that we're getting that together. And yeah, I think spoiler modes just kind of fell through the cracks. I don't think we... one sentence review, Jones. What did you think of Captain Marvel? I thought it was a really important chapter in the MCU. I don't think it will be as rewatchable for me personally as other movies. One sentence. There you go. Because some of those I just watch again and again and again. And when I was watching Captain Marvel, I was like, I don't know if I'll watch this again, because there's so much of it's like, oh, what a twist. And when you know the twist, I don't know if that movie holds up. I'll probably watch it again though. One other thing, Tyler Manning, I saw Us last night, and Amanda Troop, my wife, is in Us. She did voiceover for that movie. Can't say specifically what she did. She's all over the place, did a bunch of different random stuff. But if you hear creepy sounds in that movie, it might be Amanda. Us would be another fun one to do. I have opinions about that movie. Quaisnarg, have you ever considered an FAQ for the show? Yep, and we talked about it today. This could also be a way to trim down the episode lengths, and if someone asks a repeat question, you could reply a link to the FAQ. I would, if we do an FAQ, I will literally post it in every single episode of Cup of Jones. It'll just be right there. I wanted to ask about how your first date with Amanda went, but realized that since this show is going to be going on for 3 years now, you probably already talked about it by now. Well, that was a business question and a personal question. My first date with Amanda was great. We went to go see Chamber of Secrets. She told me she had seen it twice, but she had already seen it 3 times, and she was nervous that I would think that wasn't cool. She was nervous that she's like, actually, this will be my 4th time seeing Chamber of Secrets. I'd be like, what? 4th time? No, thanks. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm sorry, with the FAQ. Wolfgang, Helix and Sablehouse. I don't know if that is your actual last name or if that's just what you typed out on Patreon, but one more time, Wolfgang Hellickson Sablehouse. Just wondering if you guys have ever thought of returning the Checkin' Out series. I believe it was just shortened live streams, but I thought it was a good way to make a quick video to cover a game that was recently released without rushing a review or forcing a group stream playthrough. Yes, along with Don't Skip, something that we have not enforced a lot lately because we are all pretty much tapped out on all of the content that we are producing, but that is something that... worked really well. I did a checking out with Amanda about VR. We played a bunch of VR games. Were you a fan of us? You might enjoy also might enjoy Box Peak. Nice. A fan of us, meaning the movie. Blood didn't capitalize it, so I was confused. I also mentioned it the other day when I was talking about Amanda. I was like, oh, it's because I was talking about Shazam, and I'm like, the little kid from Shazam was in it, and she was like, was in Shazam? I'm like, what? She's like, what? I'm like, oh no, the movie It. Somebody's got to write a skit of like who's on first with the horror movies It and Us. Justin Loomis with our final business question so you can take off blood. What platforms is Easy Allies on? I know Easy Allies is on Patreon, Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. Anything else? Facebook. And our website, of course, our forums. Don't miss that stuff. And what platforms do you feel like you should be on but are not? Instagram. Last week's Cup of Jones, one of the other patrons mentioned Easy Allies should be on Instagram. Knowing what platforms people consider hot would be useful knowledge, right? It's don't forget Them. Yeah, there's a movie called Them, of course. It's not a question of us being like, we don't think Instagram's important. It's interest and talent. We don't have the interest. None of us have the interest to take on the job of managing that. And none of us have Instagram. I have an Instagram account because Amanda forced me to. I do not use it a lot. I apologize I think I have like 500 followers on Instagram. I apologize to each and every one of them. I am not a big photograph taker. I'm not someone who walks around like taking pictures of life. But I like to surround myself with those people so I can pose for those pictures. But yeah, we should be on Instagram and we're on Facebook, which you didn't mention. And those are business questions. Christoph Atui says, I understand Instagram, but why Easy A? It doesn't fit with the content. It definitely does. And Easy A Instagram would do nothing but help us tremendously. But not happening this week. I'll tell you that much. And I completely understand every time that I bring it up that some people might just be like peeling their faces off with frustration and be like, why don't you have an Instagram account? I get it. You're not wrong. I haven't touched this thing at all. I've been so nervous this week. My stomach is just... Ugh. Are you looking forward to Shazam? I am. We're getting into person. I typoed. I wrote Persona questions. Curveball this week. I'm only taking questions about Persona. Oh, nobody asked questions about Persona. Anyway, well, that's my Cup of Jones, everybody. Persona questions. Oh, I gotta message that to Ben. That's really funny. Persona questions. Can we just call them that now, please? Can we just call them Persona questions from now on? All right, Persona questions. Am I just so tired and exhausted from this last week that is as funny as it is? Or is it really that funny? Is it that funny? I think that's really funny. Persona questions. So, in Chapter 8, when Joker robs the... No, I'm just kidding. Andrew Burt, I had some follow-up questions and comments related to my GTA 5 question. This is what popped up in business questions for some reason from Last Cup. Hearing you say that you gave GTA 5 a 9.8, the GT10, and would easily bump it up to a 10 now, brought up an interesting problem I have with the games journalism industry and reviews as a whole. Here we go. When GTA 5 came out, it was showered in scores ranging from 9 to 10, but as stated last week, the story is weak and silly. I would go so far as to say the story is juvenile and needlessly controversial on top of being weak, which is how most people outside the games industry view video games, which is why whenever GTA game comes out there's unnecessary controversy surrounding it. Wouldn't Rockstar be more willing to look at the story flaws that series has instead of giving games a 10? Wouldn't Rockstar be more willing to look at the story flaws that series has if, instead of giving games a 10 because of a sprawling open world, reviewers actually called out the juvenile and needlessly controversial aspects of the story and score it according, say, an 8.5 equivalent instead of a 10? Would that also help the public perception of people outside the games industry to see a game series like GTA grow up so they would stop looking at games like this as evil and pointless? Even if that happened, people would still look at GTA as evil and pointless. I would venture to say that almost every single story, with GTA 4 probably being the exception, We're all juvenile. We're all silly. We're all not weak, but I didn't say the story was weak. I said the villains were weak. Very specific. I don't think the story is weak in GTA. I don't want to spoil the end of GTA. Well, there's multiple paths. I think the way the storytelling in Grand Theft Auto 5 is handled via the social media, meaning the fact that you can get emails, the fact that you can read headlines, you can listen to the radio, you can text other characters. The way they handle the ending of Grand Theft Auto 5 is genius and has impacted me emotionally in a way no other game has come close to, because emotions in most video games are cutscene. Bars come in. Now is when the seriousness happens. You're, oh, okay. All right, put the controller down. Okay. And then, it's like, that's one of the things why, Last of Us beat out Grand Theft Auto 5 for Game of the Year. And everyone's like, but it made me cry. And I'm like, well, yeah, because it's a movie. It's like you're being sad because it's following the very traditional processes. It just told a really good story and had really good characters. And these actors just nailed these roles. But it is not archaic, but it is a very comfortable way to tell stories. You stop the experience of you interacting with the video game, and I tell you what's happening. And Grand Theft Auto 5 really shakes up that dynamic. Like you do something and the radio talks about it. You can't find a game that does that. No one made it. It doesn't happen. There's no other video game. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. There's no other video game that's ever been produced in the history of the world where you do a mission in the game and you drive around casually and the radio talks about what you did. That is extraordinary. Haley says GTA 5 has some horrible missions. I'm not denying that. But I don't play Grand Theft Auto to be moved. I don't play Grand Theft Auto to be, like those characters. And I still wept a little bit in GTA 5. There were moments that moved me. I still felt bad for Michael losing his family. I still felt bad that Franklin couldn't, be respected or get along with his friends. Didn't really have a lot of sympathy for Trevor, but that's another story. And so when it comes to GTA, like, I don't think it's also tough when you talk about journalism, you talk about reviews. It's tough when you're talking about something in a review to express how much the stakes surrounding that, where if you say something went wrong, it might not be a big deal. It's worth mentioning, but it's not a deal breaker. And it's tricky to try to come up with the language to explain that in a short amount of time when you're doing a video review. Case in point, the visuals in Crackdown 3. Doesn't really bother a lot of people. Some people completely disagree with me. They think Crackdown 3 looks beautiful. But the visuals for me, that was a big deal. It makes me sad in my stomach to be playing an open world game and look out at the map and be like, whatever. I don't care. Like, I don't enjoy being here. I'm not, like a lot of people, like some people in Cup of Jones mentioned before that the buildings were really tall. And it's like, that's cool. I don't want to go up there. There's nothing going on up there. It's a higher view of this ugly city. I don't care. So it's tough to not only express your opinions and tie those into a score, which is why the end paragraph of reviews are always very important, because you might bring up all sorts of topics in a review, but then when you get to the last couple of paragraphs, it's like you can almost forget everything I said. This is the summation of my opinions. So when I talk about things that are wrong with GTA 5, it doesn't mean the game has to be absolutely 100% perfect, or that by me giving it an 8.5, that means the story will be better. I'm not expecting it to. I just want to tell people going into the game, don't expect a great story. Don't play the game for that reason. But there are so many other reasons. There's so many other ways that world comes to life that you can really feel that you are existing in a realistic space, that have nothing to do with dialogue or how good the villains were or other traditional storytelling methods that work in other games because they are more linear, that work in a God of War compared to a Red Dead Redemption 2, cough, cough, because it's like, I got you here now, cutscene, and you're like, okay, well, that cutscene was really cool, but I didn't have a lot of freedom. I wasn't able to manipulate. I couldn't choose what I was wearing in that cutscene. I couldn't choose what I was saying. Oh, we're all set. I have a question for you.
What?
I have a question.
For reals?
I have a scoop of troop.
I'm ready. We really need more chairs in here.
We do, and I just want to make a suggestion to if you can, miss an episode every now and then, not for me, but for your sake, Because I think if you have them too used to the fact that you show up and then you don't, it's heartbreaking. You know what I mean?
I don't plan to not show up. Right now they can only see my epic shirt that says "But first pizza." The first pizza.
Speaking of shirts, I want to get you a shirt that says "I don't plan to not show up." I don't plan to not show up. Amanda Troop, 2019. Okay, before you answer this question, the scoop of Troop,
I'm ready.
can you just speak? I'm not asking you to.
Look at the love I'm getting.
I know.
It's pretty great.
I love you.
Amanda
I love
is
you more than
eternal.
anyone. Do you
And then I would be a great and terrible queen. Wait, you love me more than anyone?
Wind machine. Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody loves you more than I do.
That's
so I
cool.
get it. I get
That's
the
great.
love.
Yeah.
This would be me. Amanda is eternal, says Eric Jackson. I would be saying that
Yeah,
if I was in
Amanda's
chat.
eternal. It's pretty great.
Can you speak for a little bit about?
Blah 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 blah. He's can you speak for a little bit, so I just started.
Let me finish my sentence. Can you speak for a little bit?
Yes.
About the form I was in last week?
Oh golly.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, can we
Oh,
bring it back down to a
golly.
serious
Yeah,
level?
sorry.
Do you regret
No.
blabbing me?
No, I never regret that. I'm also messing with your hair. I'm sorry. Yeah, Brandon was in bad shape last week. Brandon's stress levels were like off the chart bad. But what's cool is, so can I talk about you personally?
Can I say one thing before that?
Sure.
I saw some comments on Twitch when I watched the rebroadcast of the rebroadcast.
Yeah.
And some people were like, "Ooh, Jones got the lyrics wrong." I did not. I looked up the lyrics for Devil Trigger, and the lyrics that I got, I sang word for word. Thank you very much. If I sang something that is incongruous with your perception of what those lyrics are, feel free to send me the lyrics. There's no capcom.com/lyrics website. Like, there's no definitive source. I don't own the album of Devil
Yeah.
May Cry 5, so I don't have, like, the lyric sheet.
No, you just looked it up.
And it was funny. Like, there were some people in comments were like, "Psh, he botched the lyrics." Like, what are they then? Let me know.
I think they go, all those monkeys sitting in my head, lots of monkeys making the bed, jump, 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 do a hustle, jump, 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 pet Sophie. Right? Isn't that how it goes?
To us. Those are the lyrics now.
I mean, like, I just don't remember
Ben Moore
them.
didn't know the lyrics. I
Who
I
knows?
sang that in rehearsal to Ben, and he was like, "I don't know a word from that song."
I've heard it several times. I nailed it. Clip it. It's that.
They're on Spotify. The lyrics I grabbed were the Google lyrics. If you type in Devil Trigger
Yeah.
lyrics, Google's like, "Here you go."
But that might have meant that somebody wrote them down.
Right, but then how do you get the correct ones?
Well, it's like blinded by
like-
the light,
like Goo-
wrapped up like a douche. Another bleep.
Yes, right. Another bleep. But it's like, I mean, think about the idea of like, well, no, Google's not right. Spotify is. Like, why? Why is Spotify right?
Because
Why?
Spotify's a music resource.
And Google's dumb when
Why
it
don't
comes to
you just
information.
ask-
You don't go to Google for
Honey,
information. Like,
honey,
it's so frustrating.
babe, shh. Honey, why don't we just ask the composer?
Okay, good. We'll get him on the phone.
Wait,
What did you mean by hold it fast? They're dancing on this.
oh, you said hold it fast, they're dancing on this. It's actually hold it masked, we're giving a kiss.
Okay.
That's actually the lyric.
All right. What were you going to say about how stressed
He
I was
was
last week?
terrible. I don't think he's better.
But I'm not. Yeah, I'm not looking for sympathy.
Look at this. Look at this.
That was just a heartbeat.
Look at this.
That was a heartbeat.
You have a lot of scissors in your cup, and it makes me think of us. Sorry.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
do
It
the
doesn't.
metal.
Which really is a relief.
Yeah.
And also, those scissors didn't do that. That was Foley.
Of course.
They're like,
Can you-
can you do
honey,
it again?
honey,
really?
can you clasp those quicker? We can't hear them. Can we, honey?
Who's honey in this context? Me?
No, the gal in the whatever.
Oh, like in the thing. Like, oh, I see what you're saying.
There's
Like
one
in
shot
the-
specifically where one of the characters goes.
Yeah, spoilers. All
the
right. So
trailer.
anyway, can I talk about anxiety? Okay, so my sweetheart, as many people do, has a little anxiety, and he has all these tools and things that he has developed over the years through therapy and meditation and stuff to deal with anxiety. And I'm really, really proud of him for that. And this last week, that stuff didn't work. And he was he was a mess. He was sick. It was really hard. Oh.
What if you came in the garage one time and I just had finger paints all over my face?
I think I'd be relieved.
I was on the floor like
Good, you did.
and you were like, oh
oh no, it's finger paint level. I mean,
or like I walked into your office with my jeans on my head and I was like, how pants? And you were like, oh no. Like I just cracked. How pants? Sock on hands?
it's like funny when it makes me want to cry.
I know. That's where I'm at too.
They're gonna be like, this is the Cup of Jones where they lost it. That's very funny.
Okay.
So
Scoop,
that's
Scoop
there
of
it is.
Truth, Radioactive Magic. Hi, Amanda. Just curious about how you want to read it?
Yeah, I do want to say I did get to meet Jordan Peele, and it was amazing. And he walked into the studio when I was auditioning for the thing, and I thought he was my friend. So because sometimes I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but in LA it happens sometimes. You'll be at the grocery store and you'll see like a famous person. Like one time I saw Giada De Laurentiis, the cooking person, in the grocery store, and I thought she was like a girl in my book club, and she wasn't. But before, like, I almost went up to her and just gave her a big hug because I thought I knew her, and then I went, no, that's the girl from the TV. Don't do that. I actually. Well, not to toot my own horn. I'm going to toot my own horn. Ready for me to toot it? Sometimes, because of the stuff I've done in commercials, I get the recognition of, like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. How are you? And just people who think that they know me. And I don't correct that because it's nice. I love when people think they know me already. For the most part.
But the classic,
so
the classic
what happened
quote,
was,
the classic quote from Friends is, "Do I know you? Oh, no. You must have seen my commercial because I'm in commercials." Well, that can't be it because I don't watch TV.
Right, exactly.
Well, you do because I don't know you.
Right.
I love that exchange.
Yeah. So that was Rusty Schwimmer who said that.
Ah, nice.
The actress.
Ah.
Yes. Famous character actress. Look her up. Clip it. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I'm there for the audition, and in comes Jordan Peele, and I go, "Hi," like he's my buddy, and he goes, "Hello," and just like walks in, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's Jordan Peele," and it was very exciting. So, yeah, I definitely had to rein it in because that was a real I'm a big fan of his, so I had to be like, "Play it cool, man. Be cool." And I got the job, and that was also very exciting. So what's the question? Radioactive Magic. Hi, Amanda. Just curious about how often you audition for roles, voice or otherwise, on average over a week, a month, or a year. What month/time of year is the most opportunity filled? What time of year has the least? Of course, if this information is best not disclosed, then feel free to say no comment. Also, as just a side note, it's always nice when I hear that you were the voice of something in a movie or a show. When I went through Boxpeak, I honestly thought Kyle hired more than one female voice actor. Yeah, a few times, even though I knew full well that he didn't. You did such a great job on that. Oh, thank you very much. Okay, let me break this down. So first of all, there is no rhyme or reason to our industry. There are some general things I can say, but really all of those just depends on what's happening. We used to have a very specific time of year called pilot season where people would go out and audition for new TV shows. But now TV shows are being made all the time, all year round, all over the country, all over the world. So the casting happens constantly. Casting is being done more and more on tape and less in person. So, for example, I have an agent in Atlanta, and I audition for TV shows and films in the Southeast market all the time, and that's been going like gangbusters right now. Whereas in LA, I haven't been going out for that much TV and film, so it's kind of like, who really knows? The markets are different too. Depending on where you're at within any given market, will determine which opportunities you get to go out on. There are also trends in casting. Sometimes there are outside events that affect it, like during the writer's strike, things were really tough. We had a video game strike not so long ago. Things always affect what's happening when. Like before we went on video game strike, we had a ton of video game auditions that happened. And then it kind of got a little bit slow, and then it picked up again. And I'm a very lucky actor, but I've been in LA for 20 years this year. And thank you. And I've worked really, 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 really hard to have the team I have and the opportunities I have, and to keep my craft up so that when I get those opportunities, my agents don't go, well, she just phoned that in, or like, man, Amanda's talent's really in the toilet these days. So with, I would say in any given week, well, I can't right now. Right now I'm auditioning so much. Let's put it this way. On one day last week, I had 8 voiceover auditions. The next day I had 2 on camera. One was for, a movie, one was for motion capture for a video game, and then I had 2 more auditions that day. I'm not doing math. I don't know. I can't do it. So last week, like, let's say last week I had, because I was so busy last week, let's say I had,
You were insane last week with auditions.
at least 50. Let's say at least 50. Which makes me feel a little like Friday night, I got home and I had another audition that I had to do that night. And it and I say had, but I mean I get to do them. But when it gets to a certain point, you're like, oh my goodness.
And like, the thing, from my perspective too, when you get an audition, it's not.
I did 2 auditions this morning already.
Yeah, it's not like oh, this thing. Every time you're like, what?
Yeah,
it's
especially
like
voiceover.
Because like you hear about a new show and you're like, oh, that's neat. I can't wait to see it. It's like I'm auditioning for that. I have to completely understand what this is.
Yeah.
Based on a piece of paper. That's
Yeah.
like, here's this character, here's a rough idea of the show. We're maybe gonna call it this. I don't know.
And
you're like,
voiceover is a specific thing too, because you're creating new characters each time. Not that you wouldn't be doing that with on camera, but on camera is more like, here I am as this person, whereas in voiceover you get to kind of like almost remove the self and try to inhabit fully someone else, because they can't see this. So it's up to you to say like, oh, this is how old I am in this. This is, where my character's from. I'm like a creature from another planet, and this is how he would talk. This is this made up language. So each one has its own specific challenge. I saw, how do you navigate LA traffic? You leave early.
right.
And I've been I definitely have had times when I've been a late person, which is not great. But usually, depending on the location, I know how much time I have to leave. Most places are hour minimum. I need 1 hour minimum to get anywhere. If it's very close by, I'll give myself like 45 minutes. And if it's further away, I give myself longer. And then I listen to books on tape like constantly. Did I answer that whole question, do you think?
You totally did.
Okay.
You killed it. It's dead.
No.
Yeah, the question's dead. That's what we do. We get a bunch of questions,
No.
like the shooting gallery. We knock them all down.
No.
Ding! You okay?
I feel sad that I killed that question.
That's fine. You got to. But then, just like the circle of life, next week, whole new batch of questions.
Oh, LA parking is another thing. That's part of the timing that you have to leave. That's so true.
Look at the time. We got to move on.
Okay.
I got to be. Sony is in an hour and a half.
What clock did you just look at?
The bottom right corner of the monitor.
Oh.
The clock that's behind the thing I moved. You didn't even look at the space I was looking at.
I looked at your desk. I thought you had a clock. Like an actual clock. Do you need a clock?
There's this thing called the PC. They don't do this top right nonsense that Macs do. It's in
Yeah.
the bottom right, okay? I'm a businessman now. I'm not just home Mac stuff. I work on a PC now. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Personal computer.
A personal computer.
Which is funny. Because it's like you said business, but it says personal right in the name. Do you want me to leave?
I'm eager to finish the show.
Okay, goodbye.
I'll be honest.
Okay, goodbye.
Today's going to be a long day.
Just give him some extra love.
No, they give me lots of love. I don't need extra.
No, extra.
I really don't want to get sympathy. It's really not the point. We are in the personal part of Cup of Jones, but I don't want to.
Wait, listen. Don't give him any extra attention.
Thank you.
Don't do anything.
Take the gloves off. Yep.
Okay, bye.
Your gloves are always off.
That's except for when I wear gloves.
Except for when you wear gloves, it's true.
All those Sophie's running in my head. Sophie's jumping on the bed. Sophie barks at squirrelies. Sophie likes something.
I'm so glad you didn't do that before I performed.
I didn't do it.
I'd be on stage like, Sophie's getting squirrely. Oh, damn it, what?
I did it on purpose. I knew it would be bad.
Although if I sang a Sophie song instead of Devil Trigger, I don't think our audience would be upset.
Brandon, why didn't you sing a Sophie song?
A Sophie Swong? Get out. Fiona Tabi, one of the things I'm most thankful for the Allies is for reminding me just how good old games are and that a game doesn't need to be new to be worth playing. It's a simple thing, but has brought me a lot of joy over the past few years. I've gone back to a few RPGs this year, Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy IX, and Persona 4, and I've loved each one. Is there any game that, due to being in games media, you've had a chance to replay or play for the first time that you are particularly thankful for? Yeah, I'll give you one example, because I don't want to do, we're trying to wrap up the show. Because of game trailers, I actually finished Super Mario Brothers, the original Super Mario Brothers. I knew how it ended. I'd seen the end screen before, but I had never actually put in the time to play the entire thing from start to finish. I'd get to the end and be like, this game's hard. And then, played other games and just never corrected that. And we were doing a feature called the GT Anthology, which was very short-lived. It was an experimental show that I did. Yeah, Pokemon counts. I think he specifically says replay. Replay or play for the first time that you're particularly thankful for. I mean, obviously Pokemon, but yeah. Skate Jimmy 5. Just curious if you have some stories from visiting Sweden. I know you've mentioned your part Norwegian, so am I. And on the Scandinavian note, I know my last name is difficult to pronounce for English speakers. I'll just sign in with my Twitch username instead, which is Skate Jimmy 5. So maybe you can look back and be like, what names were tough to pronounce previously on Cup of Jones? If you don't know, it's Skate Jimmy 5 now. I mean, if that person signs. Otherwise, I'll read the name that is there on Patreon, which is how this works. I always just read whatever name you have on Patreon. So if that's not the name you want me to read, let me know. I don't have stories from visiting Sweden. I don't know how much time we spent in Sweden. When we were in Sweden, I was 9. And so it was interesting going back to Europe in general. When I went at the end of high school, when I was 18, it was interesting to be walking into a city and be like, oh, this city's cool. Wait a minute. And I would just see a building and be like, I've been here before. It was like Inception, like, whoa. And so that was kind of fun. Sweden honestly doesn't stick out, which is terrible because you're specifically asking about it. Let me double check that I've actually been to Sweden. I don't want to. I know I've been to Norway because I'm from Norway. We might not have gone to Sweden because just nothing stands out right now from my trip at 9. 31 years ago, Eric Jackson. He said 30 years ago. I'm 40. Asbo Sapruder with more musical theater talk. Yay! 3 for the kids this week. Oliver, Annie, and the Music Man. Also thoughts on Hugh Jackman returning to Broadway as Harold Hild, if you have any. I'm excited about that. Oliver. Oliver's fun because it's got an exclamation point in it. Oliver! I saw Oliver on stage when Jeff Groats, the co-founder of GameTrailers.com, played Fagin, who is the head of all the groups of little kids that run around. Oliver, I don't know Oliver that well. I've never listened to the score since I saw that. Another funny memory from Oliver. There was one scene. I had a crush. And still do in a way. She's just fantastic. But probably one of my long-standing crushes from my childhood was a girl named Amy Estabrook. And I was just infatuated with this woman forever. I thought she was the best. And we were very good friends, but she just was never interested in me. And I had all sorts of friends that dated her over the years. And I was just like, Poor me. But she was in Oliver, and I remember going to see it and being like, there's Amy. And there was one number where somebody sang a song, and she was in the back and had candles, but they were electric candles. And so she would just do the little trick where she would just like if this is the on-off switch, where she would be like, and it would look like it was going out. And one of them didn't go right away. And she wasn't the focus of the scene. She was just walking around the back of the stage, blowing out all of the candles. Because it's fun sometimes to have busy work going on in a show, to not just have like everybody focus on one person. But Amanda knows about Amy. Amanda's met Amy several times. But it was just funny to see her go like, and then it worked. And I'm like, I saw that because I was staring at you. Annie. I'm sorry, allies. I don't like Annie. That show's grating to me. Every time I've seen it, it's like, the thing that's good about Annie, I like, and like Stranger Things and everybody, I like really good kid actors. Man, you know who's a good kid actor? I recommend The Dirt. It's on Netflix right now. It's a movie about Motley Crue. If you grew up in the 80s, I think you'll really get a kick out of it. It's not like a great movie. I don't know what you would expect out of a Motley Crue story, but Vince Neil unfortunately lost his daughter to cancer, and the girl who plays his daughter in that movie is amazing. And she must have been like 5. I was blown away, like tears. She's like she was a better actor than the guy who played Vince Neil. I was astounded by her performance. It's like worth watching that movie. It's on Netflix right now. It like just came up this weekend. And I love that about Netflix. I love tuning on Netflix and being like, what? Motley Crue movie I didn't know about? Of course. Let's do it. Yeah, it's a hard knock life for Jones. Annie is a fun show. It's like one of those old shows where it doesn't necessarily hold up in the sense of being kind of like deep. Like there's not a lot of really important themes going on, but I mean it's a tent pole musical. Like it's was obviously a very successful film. It's been rebooted many times, and I love, I think Easy Street's my favorite number from Annie. Correct me if I'm wrong. Carol Burnett was in the original film, and who were the two other people in Easy Street? It was Carol Burnett and Frankenfurter, the butler from Clue. Hello, wow, can't think of his name. Not Cameron Diaz, not in the new one. And I can't remember the third one. Was it Madeline Kahn, or who was that? Easy Street. Bernadette Peters and Tim Curry, says Screaming Argonaut. Yes. All of you are also great, but Screaming Argonaut beat all of you to the punch. Bernadette Peters, the great, wonderful Broadway phenomenon that is Bernadette Peters. And Tim Curry is a god. You're not wrong, Haley. Tim Curry is absolutely incredible. But Carol Burnett, Tim Curry, and Bernadette Peters all being like trashy humans. Just the squealing from Annie. It's hard knock life. Not my favorite show. I also very angrily got beat out by a group that did Annie at a theater festival. Me and a couple people, also including the co-founder of GameTrailers.com, Jeff Groats, brought Chorus Line, and we did a number from Chorus Line for that competition. We got beat out by Annie. The Music Man, I know more than all of the shows that we're talking about today. I was in The Music Man. I played Tommy Gillis. Tommy Gillis, if you know Music Man vaguely, is the one with the dynamite, or firecracker. He puts the firecracker down the mayor's wife's pants. And ha 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 ha. And then he also builds like a thing for people with wind instruments to like have a music stand. So he builds a music stand that can like fasten to your arm, that you can like, while you're playing the flute, you have like a little thing here. And I had to build that because it was a community theater production. And so I like got a coat hanger and was like, how is this thing going to work? But Music Man was one of my first big shows. I did a lot of musicals when I was a kid, but they were all just silly. It was the kind of thing where like, we were lucky if we memorized our lines. If you're curious, literally like the rank of those, I did Anything Goes, then Hello Dolly, then No No Nanette, and then Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And I did those with a group called Children's Theater. And then there was another community theater called Curtains Up. And I did 2 shows with them because I had a lot of friends that were also doing theater at the time, and they were working with Curtains Up, and they just were, the just a completely different organization. And through them, I did Fiddler on the Roof. But before I did Fiddler, I did The Music Man. The theater I did The Music Man in is no longer standing. It's a parking lot. And that was a lot of fun. It was fun for a lot of the stuff like in No No Nanette and Hello Dolly. I was always playing people that were like 20, 30 years older than me, and or 10 or 20. And Music Man was fun because I played someone my age. I played a little kid, and I had to do a dance. I had to flip a girl. I'll do the demonstration for you. I had to do a thing where a girl ran in, hooked her left arm around this arm, and I spun her over my back. So she would flip her legs up, and she had a big skirt, and she would go woo and do a big rainbow over the back of my head. And we would practice that nonstop. I would grab Jessica Hume was the gal that did that, and I would grab her and be like, "Can we please practice this 5,000 times?" So that was very scary. I'm a big fan of Hugh Jackman being Harold Hill. I think Harold Hill is the best musical casting I can think of for Hugh Jackman. I think Hugh Jackman makes a great P.T. Barnum. It was exciting to see him play Barnum in that movie. I think that movie did a very poor job of telling the story of Barnum. That's a rant for another day. But and I did not think Jackman was a good Jean Valjean, not because he didn't try his damnedest to pull that role off, but I just don't think it's a good role for him. It's not in his range. When you see Les Miserables the movie and you see Hugh Jackman going, "I can almost hit this note," you shouldn't do that. Like, you don't need to. You don't cast someone in a role in a musical that is like having a hard time. You want to see someone who's singing a bit and they're like, "I could do this in my sleep. I could do this in the shower. I could do this while I'm folding laundry. I can just," and no problem. Again, it's why I compare, musical theaters to martial arts. It's the same with martial arts. You wouldn't want to cast somebody in a martial arts film that's like, "I'm bad at this," So there you go. Eric Jackson. Assuming someone has interest in doing some fan art for you. Oh, Eric, I didn't prepare for this at all. And let's just say that it would hypothetically be shown on a future community showcase. What sort of ideal fan art would you like to see? I got it. One fan art that I really enjoy that is not up anymore because I have taken everything down and I haven't, talking about just stress in general, this garage is just still piles of stuff. Like I haven't put any sort of TLC whatsoever since I initially put stuff up in the back there. And like one idea that I have, I want this whole wall to be art. I want to get lots of little types of art and just plaster them all over that wall. But we're also talking about maybe repainting in here. And so it's like, I don't want to put up stuff that I'm going to have to take down after we paint. So, but one thing that I really enjoy is somebody drew us as Pokemon once. Not Pokemon that we would like, us as Pokemon. And I think I was, what is his name? The fire dog from Gen 1. I think I've drained my brain. I think I lost some brain cells this week. I'm not lying. What is his name? Growlithe. Thank you. Somebody drew me as Growlithe, or Arcanine. It might have been Arcanine. No, I think it's Growlithe. I think because is Arcanine the bigger one? Yeah. It's the little one, the first evolution or the non-evolution, I guess. And they drew me as Growlithe with Mickey ears. And so I would love. How dare you not know Growlithe's name? That's where I'm at right now mentally. The smaller one is Growlithe. Okay. And so it'd be fun to see me drawn as something non-human. That would be fun pertaining to my interests, which are Disney, Gothic horror, musicals, whatever. Pokemon now, of course, but I already got the one Pokemon. But I think that would be interesting. Me as a beast of some type, or a lamp, some inanimate object. I don't know, a staircase. Use your imagination. Mr. Mags, what does the Easy A theme song mean to you? What do you feel when you hear it? Fascinating question. I love that. Thank you, Mr. Mags. What does the Easy A theme song mean to you? Ownership. That sounds divisive. I don't mean it to. It means that we own this company. That's what it means to me. I hear that, and that's ours, and that's really exciting. Like, I go back and look at game trailer stuff. I go back and look at reviews and countdowns and retros, and whenever I see the GT logo, I'm like, yeah, that company we made. It's always a we. It's always like, yeah, there were a lot of people involved in that. There were a lot of cooks in that kitchen. There was a lot of approval processes that needed to go through before. I mean, this is still true in a lot of senses with the current company now, or with any company you do. But everybody's saying wonderful things. Humble pride, the jollies, love and jolliness. But it's, when I first heard that, I was like, I got a little misty, because I'm like, man, not only is that a great song, not only does that really fit our vibe, I think, but it's ours. That someone wrote that song for us. And that is such a wonderful feeling. Not only just in music, but when someone draws something for you, that's yours. Like that's when an artist gives you rights to their work as a gift. I mean, not as a gift. We paid Phantom NK for that song, but when you get the opportunity, you gave us the gift of that money to spend on that song. Let me put it that way. That is tremendous. But to answer your second question, what do you feel when you hear it? I feel like we're about to go live, or I'm about to cut the Easy Alice podcast. Like on a straight Pavlov's dog visceral level, it's 2 minutes, everybody. that's the Easy Alice theme. The People's Fang. I love that name. Just this past Thursday, I had to make the decision to get. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Jolliness, but now we're gonna bring it down a little bit. Talk about supporting other people. Just this past Thursday, I had to make the decision to get my cat, Mr. Goggles, put to sleep. His urethra blocked again despite having surgery to remove a previous blockage and even widen the passage. He was such a great cat and companion. I would appreciate a moment of pause to honor, appreciate, and send jolly vibes to Mr. Goggles and all the pet allies we've been blessed to know. Cheers, Mr. Goggles. It's hard. I remember when we lost our cat, Albus, about 3 or 4 years ago. And it was right before Christmas. So now Christmas is like every time November rolls around and we get closer to the date, Amanda is obviously much more closer to that loss than I am, because it was not my cat. I did not know that cat for a few years before I met him. And it's tough. When you're grieving, it's tough because you remember something that someone told you, and you remember that it stuck with you, but it didn't necessarily help at the time. And so then you want to communicate that to other people. But it's tough when you're grieving because people want to help and they say things, and it just, despite their best efforts, it doesn't help, doesn't work. It's like, there's nothing really is going to get me through this other than just crying a lot and giving it time. But one thing that my mom said that I always try to remember, that I assume for the most part, because most people are kind to animals, this is not the only conversation to deal with animal loss, by the way. We're gonna get to that later on in personal questions. This is a very moody, introspective episode of Cup of Jones in many ways. My mom reminded me when we lost Albus about how lucky Albus was in terms of how unfortunate most pets' lives are. A lot of animals are put to sleep before they even get a chance to find a home or find owners or belong to a family. And if you take care of a cat, like you said, you already had surgery. It's like, what a lucky cat to be with a family that cares about them so much and is willing to pay whatever it takes, to do whatever sort of procedures. That's why, like, pet insurance sounds silly, but you're gonna pay. I remember somebody saying that. I was like, you're right. Like, when are you not gonna pay? It's like, it would be so rare for you to be like, meh, just let the pet go. Like, it's inconceivable. Because we love these animals so much, and it seems so unfair when we have to say goodbye to them, or in what seems to be the case with Mr. Goggles, when you have to say goodbye to them prematurely. But how fortunate are these animals? It's tough to accept. It's tough to understand when you're grieving. But how lucky are some of these animals that get to live with us and get to, I see our cat, and it's just like, you're lucky, you cat. I see Norbert, just like lounging around, and it's just like, what a life, to chase moths and, look out the window and find the right sunlight and get petted and loved and have a bed to sleep on and a roof over his head. If it helps, I encourage you to try to remind yourself of that it seems terrible that this ailment, took him, before it was his time. But at the same time, I think, I don't know you, People's Fang, but I will put forth my guess that Mr. Goggles was very fortunate to have you as a parent, as an owner, as a family member. And it seems really, it stings right now to experience the pain that not only the pain that you're feeling in the grieving process, but obviously the pain that your animal went through, because not many people get a chance to come back and talk about the death process, but it's probably not fun. But at the same time, you compare, those fleeting moments to a lifetime of cat joy, and you'll return to that. I still miss Albus. He was a really great cat, but now when I think of Albus, I mostly think of the good times and how different Albus was compared to Norbert. Norbert's just a weirdo. Norbert's always like, what's that? Ah! Like, you sneezed? Ah! And he'll run out of the room. Where Albus was like an owl. Albus was just kind of like, I'm going to lick myself here. And you'd walk into a room and he'd be like, hello. Like, that was Albus. And I don't know if I'll ever get that mood again from a cat. He was unlike any cat I've ever known or owned before. And he's unlike any cat I've ever met since. So I'm going to do it one more time. Cheers, Mr. Goggles. Godspeed. Rest in peace. And it's tough. It's also tough getting a new animal. That's a transition process. And you shouldn't feel any guilt. If you want to go out today and buy a new cat, do it. You're not disrespecting Mr. Goggles. That is only going to help you therapeutically get through that process. Just take your time. Don't feel rushed. I tried to rush Amanda a little bit. There was one cat pair we looked at after Albus died called Batman and Robin. And I was like, she's like, no, we're not getting Batman and Robin. I'm like, Batman and Robin. Chris Irely. Do you have a gaming secret? Like a feeling you have that is embarrassing, or a feeling of guilt in regards to yourself as a gamer? For myself, it was about never having played a Legend of Zelda game before in my life. For context, I am 31 years old. All my life, I've heard about how great this series is, that they are some, if not, of the greatest games ever made. Being a gamer who likes playing various types of games, single-player action-adventure games are probably my favorite genre. Hearing how much love people have for Zelda, and me never having played a single game in the series, kind of hurt my pride as a gamer. I wanted to know what I was missing that everyone else had experienced, and finally getting to experience these masterpieces for myself. Not playing a single one of them kind of made me feel bad inside, incomplete as a gaming enthusiast. So, has there been something similar where you have felt bad for never playing a series or a particular game? Or maybe it's something completely different in relation to being a gamer playing games that makes you feel a little embarrassed about. Yeah, there are those franchises. Dragon Quest I hadn't really dabbled in until this year. Mass Effect is a huge one. It makes no sense why I never, completed any of those games, and it's been on my backlog for a really long time. Bear with me. I'm going to divulge this. I think I've talked about this before, but, you heard that question. You know what information they want. They want some dirt. They want something that this is completely internally for me. This is not a criticism of anyone else who enjoys this activity. This is embarrassing to admit. This is something that I'm going to talk about in this context, and I'm never, ever, ever going to talk about this again on any other video. This is frame trap poison right now. I hate mouse and keyboard to play games. I hate it. I hate it. I hate playing a video game with a mouse. A mouse to me is business. A mouse to me is email, is internet navigation, is opening folders, is transferring files. The idea that like somebody doing this simulates this is so weird to me. Like, it's so strange. And I understand the aiming. Like, when people are like, you just aim better with the mouse and keyboard. It's like, oh, I get it. Like, it makes 100% sense. It's kind of why it's like Destiny inspired like the whole thing in games. Was it Destiny? Like, what was the first game to do the like we're moving the reticle around to do menus now? Where like it starts in the middle and now you're like, I'm gonna go pick that thing. I felt like Destiny was like one of the first the games to do that, but that's the opposite of that, where you're like, this is taking forever. I'm using an analog stick to move. Like, that obviously works much better with the mouse because you can just whoosh, click when you're playing Destiny on PC. But they're just, I think, like Civilization, RTSs. But even then, it doesn't feel. It feels like I'm using Excel. It feels like I'm preparing a spreadsheet. Like I don't, for me, the reasons why I love open world games more than any other genre is I want to be immersed big time. I don't want to just be immersed in a story. I want to be in the world. And that's why, you know, it pains me to say it about God of War, but like I really enjoyed God of War. But when I would look around at the world, I'd be like, all right, it's pretty and it's epic as hell, but like I don't know if I believe it. You know, I don't know if I'm like, yeah, this elf world was like a place people lived. But that's the thing about immersion for me with mouse and keyboard. It completely takes me out of the experience. The idea of like, what key's that? The idea that I'm using a controller that like most of these buttons don't do anything is it's a strange way to play games. And I think a lot of it has to do obviously with experience too. I grew up as a Mac guy. And so I was not a PC enthusiast. I did not play Quake. I did not play Doom. I played Doom on the Super Nintendo. You know, like I did not play. I played Half-Life 2 on a PS2. Like, no, I played Half-Life 1 on a PS2. I played Half-Life 2 on PC. But it's just never been for me. That's my gaming secret. But you say that, and it sounds like if you like mouse and keyboard, bleh. No, not at all. I have tons of respect for you, man. Like if there's esports and people are just shredding each other, you know, in a professional competition and they're all using mouse and keyboard, that's thrilling. That's amazing. Just not for me. Dwayne L., you could probably file this under personal. It's the same thing with Inverted, but that's not a secret. You could probably file this under personal questions, and I did, but I was wondering if you could dive a little bit more into how you meditate. I believe it was last week's Cup of Jones. You mentioned about how you meditate, and a week before I started doing meditation myself for personal reasons that I will not bother you about. Feel free to bother me with those in the future if you want. So I was looking for any tip, suggestion, etc. that you could give. I already took the advice you gave me about the kind of music not to listen to. So as I mentioned before, I was just looking for more information you could provide. Okay, so I know some people are like, oh, Jones, okay, we talked about meditation like 2 weeks ago. So I want to bring up something new because I meditated last week. Let me tell you. Again, I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm not asking for, you know, any kind of special treatment. But just so you know, if you watch Mysterious Monsters and you're curious to revisit it again at a later date and you want to watch it again, know that from the moment we were on stage and I was like, all right, let's kick this thing off. And I walked backstage to the moment I walked back on to sing my song, I walked over to a wall and did this the entire time. The whole time. Go back and watch the show and see the TRT. I think it was about 18 minutes. That's all I did the whole entire time. I didn't rehearse my song. I didn't do anything. Even just thinking about it, like I can feel my nerves like starting to clench up a little bit now. So yeah, meditation was key last week. Two things I want to bring up about meditation that I think are interesting. I talk a lot about trying to clear your mind and how difficult that is. That's from my personal experience. I unfortunately, maybe I'll get this opportunity, you know, during my lifetime on planet Earth, but like I can't insert myself into someone else's brain. And so, you know, John Milkovich or otherwise Milkovich. And so I don't know how other people perceive information. For me, when I try to meditate, my brain refuses to let it happen. My brain is like, but there's all these things you need to think about. And it's like, I'm not thinking about those things right now. So part of the process of meditation is this fascination with what your brain is forcing you to think about. And it's interesting, you know, because when you start meditating, it's all the usual, you know, nonsense. It's all, you know, here's the thing you're worried about right now. Here's the thing that is coming up that is scary, that you're unsure of, you know, and then you get past those, and then there's like the back burner stuff starts to pop up in your brain. You're like, oh, right, there's that other thing I have to do. And then you get calm, if it works. And then you start to like calm down a little bit and your breathing starts to get more regular. And I think one of the most important transitions with meditation that it takes a lot of time for people to understand and achieve and strive for is comfort. You should be comfortable meditating. It's the whole point of it. Like you know, if you're so stressed, you're not comfortable, there's nothing you can do about it. Don't beat yourself up. But like a lot of people are like, how do I breathe? Breathe naturally, but breathe so it feels good. Breathe so when you let go, you're enjoying it and you're having a good time. You're like, oh, this is great. I want to keep doing this. You know, like that's the goal. That's where you want to get to. So it's so much more important reaching that goal than breathing a certain way or thinking a certain thing or listening to a certain piece of music. And so try to get there. And one of the things that's fascinating just personally for me, because I talk about meditating a lot, and because I want to try to communicate the lessons that I've learned in the process of meditation to our wonderful community to help all of you chill out when you need to. What happens for me in my weird brain is the process of what I'm doing now, explaining to you how to meditate well, I'll have those thoughts. So when I do something well that I'm proud of in the process of meditation, I will start to go through a narrative of me explaining that to another person. And even that is like, stop, it's like, brain, shut off. And the brain's like, but you just had a really good thought. And if you communicated that to the allies or your patrons, then they would, and it's like, brain, stop, just stop. Like, and so what I try to do is like, maybe like imagine an object. Like that actually kind of worked for me a little bit last week as I started to see kind of like a little, like a stone almost, like a little just nothing object floating in space in front of me when my eyes were closed. Sometimes I like to think of like a road or a tunnel, because that helps you like move past things sometimes, like to envision. It also kind of helps you, like if you're on a train or a subway or like the Haunted Mansion or something, you've kind of buckled yourself into something that's just going to move. You're in a passenger seat in a car. You don't have to do anything. Just sit there and it's just going to go. When you think about life that way, it helps. Like when you realize things are going to go on without me. Everything's going to be okay. I was terrified when I found out we couldn't live stream. We got through it. We're okay. We're on the other end. I haven't lost all of you. Maybe our Patreon takes a dip. I don't know. I haven't checked exit surveys in the last couple of days, but it's going to be okay. Most of the time, it's going to be okay. Even if the thing you're dreading comes to pass, it's going to be okay. You will look back a year from now and be like, I'm so glad that's over, and look at where I am now. So yeah, those are like my takeaways from last week. And I was actually thinking about like, I wonder if I would communicate that later. I wonder if it's time to do, I actually talked about this at, yesterday at the park meetup about the concept of like, what if I do a segment just on wellness every week on Cup of Jones? Because it's something that is very important to me, not because it's like, you should do that meditation if you don't feel bad, but it's worked out so well for me. It's done wonders for me. It's like a survival tactic almost. I would be in very bad shape if I had never discovered meditation. I'd probably be highly medicated right now, which is also not bad, but if it's done, with a physician or psychiatrist, obviously, but be neat to do. Maybe like a guided meditation at the end of every episode of Cup of Jones. I don't know. The show will evolve, but there we go. There's a couple more little tidbits about meditation. Hopefully I'll have some more fun things to say in the future about it as well. Amir Hosni, I'm currently very much enjoying playing The Division 2. So am I. The Division 2 rules. But there seems to be only a very few discussions about the game online, paired with a really delayed response from the critical reviewers' standpoint that I feel is denying this game the attention it deserves. Any thoughts on that? I'm not sure about the inner workings of Ubisoft, but do you think they made a mistake not sending review codes earlier so that they are able to hit the release date embargo rather than have to wait 2 weeks after to release for Huber's review? Yeah, it's like the problem with these games. It's the same thing with Anthem. It's the same thing with Destiny 2. It's the same thing with the original Destiny. It just launches. It just poof, there it is. Because all the servers have to go live at the same time. So they did have an early access, but that was for consumers. So they can gatekeep it in a sense, but they do want, and it makes sense also, Rockstar did this in a maybe clunky way, but they tried to think of as many steps that they could do in terms of, let's have a little people and then a little bit more people and then a little bit more people so we can slowly roll out, Red Dead Online. I don't know if I said GTA Online. I meant to say Red Dead Online. But with Division, yeah, you just got to launch it. And it'd be an interesting question for like Yves Guillemot, if I ever get him on the mic, to be like, how much were you expecting Division 2? How important is that first week for Division 2? Because there's no raid yet. I think a lot of people haven't hit max level yet. I think I saw Andrea Renee hit it like just a couple days ago, maybe like a week ago. And so, Greg Miller just hit it. Stone Chin obviously is tweeting out a lot about it. And so I messaged Huber the other day because he finally got the script in for his review for Division. And I was like, I'm level 20 right now. I'm almost 21. I think I'm like a sliver away from 21. And I was like, I really want to get there. I really want to raid. I'm like, there's no raids yet, right? And he's like, no, you got plenty of time. And that's kind of this game. Like I don't think, my hope for these types of games is that initial rush, kind of same thing with Dreams. Like, I don't know how many people need to adopt Dreams like right away. Like if there's some other huge game that everybody wants to play that week, play that. And then, it's, I think when these games, maybe not every game deserves like long standing support for years and years, but obviously there's some games that's how they function. They function on, being a service. They function on, constantly being updated in the old traditional MMO sense. And that's the way I feel about Division 2. So I just don't get a rush when I think about Division 2. I think it did review well. I'm not surprised reviewers are taking a long time because it is a huge game. even when you hit 30, it's not enough. For me, I've actually kind of been favoring being solo, not because I don't want to play with allies or not because it's not easy or fun to meet up with other people and play with other agents, but I'm curious to see what the process is like when you don't do that. What the process is like, can I get to 30 all by myself? Can I finish the main story campaign solo? So I'm specifically buying weapons like turrets and drones and stuff that can help me, that can basically kind of pretend to be other players, and only really working with other allies or people when it just like naturally happens. Like I had an ally jump in my game last week and just run around with me, and that was a lot of fun. They didn't even have the headset on; they just like saluted and then took off like after an hour. And so Division 2 is a very interesting game. I don't know if when I'll get a chance to talk about Division 2, might not be till the end of the year, because I don't know if I'm going to be on the next episode of Frame Trap. Obviously, Huber is kind of the foremost expert on that game, but Division 2 is excellent. It was very interesting finishing Anthem and then almost going immediately into Division 2 and being like, here we go. Maybe I'll do an editorial on Division 2, or, but I have lots to say just in terms of how it builds its world and how, and it's Ubisoft. It's Assassin's Creed, it's Ghost Recon Wildlands. It's, from the little bit of it that I've played, Watch Dogs 1 and 2, like they're just so damn good at making open world games because they've been doing it for so long. And so Ubisoft is really good at having you look at the map and understand your progression of the game and having it be organic in terms of like, I'm done with that area, now to move on. And they're like, oh, wait, I'm going back to this area. Oh, for a very specific reason. Oh, the area's changed. Like, they're just, they're very smart. So there you go. Play Division 2. Parasite Paladin. I could be wrong, but it seems like you're now writing your feedback on your computer. Is true. With that being the case, what did you do with all the written on paper feedback? In the old episodes of Cup and Jones, when I had it on paper, when the episode would be over, I would type it out into because there still was a document and I had those documents saved. And so I would just type those out into that document, save it. And then all those are stored on my little laptop here. The problem with takeaways and feedback is we have so many things on our list of stuff to do. I would say there's probably about over 1,000 items that's like, wouldn't hurt, to have more merch, wouldn't hurt to have a community manager, wouldn't hurt to have easyallies.com/bets, easyallies.com/Hall of Greats, wouldn't hurt to be more involved in the forums, wouldn't hurt to have an Instagram account, wouldn't hurt to put up the art, to have the Hall of Greats a little physically in the studio, the hallway. Like there's so many things we could do, and so many of those really good ideas would not be massively beneficial to the company, and so they're easy to put on the shelf and not get to for a while. And so we also have had, and I have all of this stuff documented a couple of times. I don't remember the person's name and it's killing me, but there was a wonderful ally that on 2 separate occasions collected all of those takeaways and made me address them line by line. And I very much enjoy doing that because it's great to go back and see those things, and frustrating when you see something that I really try not to say the word promise because that's a dangerous word when you're asking people for money every month. But I do speak positively about a lot of takeaways sometimes, and it must be frustrating to hear them and have them not take root, not happen. Yeah, there we go. Snow Cone Guy. We have 3 questions left, so I should be on time for the Sony thing. Snow Cone Guy. Last Friday, my dog died. After 13 years we have had together. It used to be my parents' dog, and it was really tough it was a really rough gut punch that has turned my life upside down. Bring him back, everybody. Cheers to Snow Cone Guy's dog, who we don't have a name of. But I told you, this was a serious episode, everybody. And while I'm going through this change, a thought arose in my mind, which I want to bounce off you, a fellow dog owner. The topic is the depiction of dogs in games and movies. Can you pet the dog? And how we react to the display of harm or death applying to them in those fictional forms of art, be it the dog of John Wick, or the dog of B.J. Blazkowicz in Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. We can't stand to see harm done to dogs in art. People hate it when a game or movie does this. I honestly think that if John Wick would have lost a sibling or a child instead of a dog, there would have been a less shocked reaction from audiences. And I wonder why. We see humans suffer or die in games and movies all the time. We celebrate good kills in games and count the deaths in movies, but harm to dogs goes too far for most of us. Is this because of the loyal nature of dogs? Is it the innocence of man's best friend? Do we secretly think better of dogs than of people? Do we assume that a dog is often the only true friend of somebody who is in a situation where they are on their own or up against the world? I'm not saying it's wrong or bad that we have this kind of taboo. I'm not in the slightest trying to make a case against this reaction or a case for more depictions of dog deaths in media. I'm just really curious about where we are when it comes to this and would like to hear your thoughts. I'll open this with a thought from Paul Vanderhoven. Is that his first name? Paul Vanderhoven, the guy who directed RoboCop and Total Recall and RoboCop 2, I think, and specifically Starship Troopers. And there's a shot in Starship Troopers where you see the corpse of a dog. And it's a human, and there's a shot on the dog, and I think the dog is in Paul Verhoeven. Yeah, I think the dog is impaled on like rebar. Like it's kind of a graphic shot, and then it pans up to this guy, and he's like, "The bugs did this," and you're like, "Oh no, the bugs! We got to go fight the bugs." And it much like what Verhoeven does, there's a lot of propaganda in Verhoeven films, and he it might seem like he's just a kid in a candy store when it comes to gore and action and violence, but there is a method to his madness. There is intent behind the violence that he does show, and in a lot of ways it's speaking to how we react to those things. And so in this case, it's propaganda. They're using the death of this animal to encourage you to want to cause the death of another animal or a bug or an alien, another species. And Paul Verhoeven was being interviewed about Starship Troopers, and he said he was at a premiere of the movie, and when they showed the dog, they showed the corpse of the dog, the audience like revolted, like they just completely turned on it. We're like, how dare you? Like, what an unnecessary, horrible, graphic thing to show. It's so unnecessarily disturbing, and it seems like you're just waving around, making all these violent things happen for no reason. And he had a very fascinating response to that. Paul Verhoeven is German. He grew up in Germany. When he was a child, cities and towns around him were being bombed on a consistent basis. He woke up one morning to his windows being shattered because the building across the street exploded. And the family inside died. Everyone he knew on that side of the street was dead. He would walk to school past corpses and would see mangled body parts and just all sorts of... Oh, he's Dutch. I'm sorry. Dutch. Thank you. Chad is correcting me. Thanks. Sorry. He was talking about World War II, so I made that assumption because they were being bombed. But no, I know we also bombed Germany, so I thought that was we bombed Germany a lot. Yeah, I'm not trying to instigate war crimes here. The point being, he grew up with a very visceral, personal contact to gore, and so it's interesting to him where he's like, maybe this is just, maybe I'm just kind of deaf to these things because it doesn't bother me in the way of not being shown, where it's like, no, you don't show that. You hide that thing. You suggest it, but you don't show it. He's like, I didn't get that luxury. That thing was shown to me at a very early age. I had to come to terms with those things. And so now I put those things in my art. Now I'll have guys, take a Gatling gun to the chest and go flying out of a window. And I'm going to show the whole thing because, I don't know, there's just kind of like a realism, like an honesty to a lot of his work, despite him doing potentially lots of cheesy stuff. So there's that. I think the biggest thing is dogs can't talk. Dogs are very communicative. Look what I got at our meetup. Look at this. Look at that. I love this. Speaking of dogs passing, doesn't this seem like it's like a memorial statue? Like I got this and I'm like, this is beautiful, but if I put this up in the office, it'll seem like we're mourning for Sophie when we're clearly not. But like, oh my God, look at Sophie. It's hard to like talk about this while she's staring at me from like underneath my monitor. But I think it's because we have this relationship with dogs that there's this element of trust where it always breaks my heart whenever Sophie looks at me when I get up to do something and she's like, what's going on? Sophie wants to be ahead of me all the time. So if I'm getting up, one of my favorite things is I'll turn the PS4 off and she knows that sound. You hit the power button and then you go whoop, whoop, whoop to power whoop, hit power, and then whoop, down one to shut off the PS4, boop, and then turn it off. And that whole sequence of beeps and boops, she knows that. So when she hears that, she's like, yes. And she's like, well, let's go. We're going. And I'm like, no. I'm just going to turn on my Xbox. Or no. I'm just turning off the TV, but I'm still going to work. Like, it's not like that noise doesn't always mean we're going inside. When it's 5 o'clock every day, she freaks out because that's when she typically goes out to go to the bathroom and have dinner in that order. And so anytime I get up out of my chair when it's like 4:45, she's like, what's going on? And so I think that when we see a dog being harmed, when we see a dog where it appears that no human accounted for that dog's safety, it's frustrating. You know, when you see something happening and you know that somebody made the decision to make that happen without context. Somebody actually posted a picture the other day of a very sad image from Division 2 where someone had died and the dog had died next to him, assuming that the person had died and the dog, stayed with that person. You'll see images of dogs at funerals or standing over graves, weeping. And it's just like, there's so much going on there. There's so much there that we can begin to comprehend, but again, we'll never get inside the head of a dog, so we really don't know. Like, it's fascinating to see Sophie's expression yesterday at the meetup, which is just like stimulation overload. There's smells, there's new people, there's the park, there's other dogs, it's sunny out, so she wants to be out in the sun, and so when I didn't have a dog for a really long time, and when I finally got Sophie, there's just this tremendous amount of responsibility that I felt for this animal. And I remember there was one time, very, 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 very scary moment where I was in front of the house and Sophie saw a dog across the street and just gunned it. And she'd never done this before, ever. And a dog actually did this to Sophie while we were at the park yesterday, and the owner was like, "I'm so sorry," and I made sure to lock eyes with the owner and be like, "My dog did this too once, and it shattered me." So like, I totally understand. It's fine. Like, dogs are just weirdos sometimes. What are you gonna do? But Sophie bolted across the street. She ran out into the street. Across the street, and these poor people were walking their dog, and she came around the side of a car. So imagine walking your dog and then boom, there's Sophie, and Sophie's like, "I hate you." You're like, "Ah." And I just ran up and scooped her up and like held her in my hands, and the moment like I grabbed Sophie, she's fine. Like, she's not gnashing and barking while she's in my hands. She's like, "Oh wait, what did I do?" And I'm like, "No, Sophie, calm down." And I told him, I'm so sorry to these people. It's like, she's never done that, and ever since then, she's just, I try to train her in the front yard. There's some dogs she just hates. And so whenever she's out with us in the front yard, we close the gate now. And sometimes she'll run up to the fence and be like, I don't like you. And I want you to know that right now. But so it's that sense of responsibility. You see a dog being harmed and you feel it must be the fault of some human, whereas you see a Godzilla movie and, the building fell over and you're like, stupid humans. Like, we're all responsible for our own safety because we can drive vehicles. We can pay our power bills. We can, operate heavy machinery. We can do things. We're smart. We should be smart enough not to get on a tall ladder in our bare feet. Like, we're smart enough not to speed on freeways and, eat nothing but junk food. And, it's like when you see something bad that happens to people, a lot of times it's our fault. And when it's not, it's just kind of passed off. It's just like, hey, that's life. It's a natural event, or it just sometimes stuff happens. But with animals, there's got to be a human that messed up somewhere. And when you see it in art, it's tough for someone to. Especially when you see it in art, some humans are pretty stupid. Says Uzi Suicide. This is true. Some dogs are very smart, and some humans are very stupid. So yeah, I think it's just that accountability that can be frustrating, especially if it's not communicated. If you see an animal being harmed in a movie and you're like, why? With John Wick, I think it's actually very effective because John Wick spent his whole life taking life, and he, had relationships, but he doesn't have children, and he never really, he doesn't have like plants. Like Leon in The Professional. I love that Leon is a hitman, but he has this plant that he really takes care of. I think that's a beautiful touch. And so, John not only having to deal with loss and making a very tough decision to try to get out of this business of being a professional killer, and then at the same time he's processing all of these things. He's given this animal to take care of, and so now it just like almost completely flips the coin in his brain, where now he's moving in a totally different direction and is now trying to care for someone, and then life takes that away from him as well. And it's just like, so it's not a matter of seeing a dog be harmed. You don't even see it happen in the movie. It's a matter of what is essential in this story to get a person to a level where they really don't have a lot left. And I think, you raised a good point where if it was a child, I don't think it would have hit that much, because it's not only a dog, it's a young dog. And just like the line from Angelica Houston in the trailer, like, oh, this over a puppy? Morgan Mulhalla, hypothetically, a post-apocalyptic situation comes up. I want to make it clear, before I go on with this question, I am here for hypothetical apocalypse questions. I love thinking and planning for the apocalypse. It's a weird thing. I'm not a prepper. Like, I don't have like a staircase in the back of the garage where I'll go down to a fallout shelter. But because I like camping, because I like hiking, because I like living on off of the elements and trying to see how far I can go with just bare essentials, you start to think. You start to see like apocalypse movies and being like, would I make it? Would I last? Where you survive, but will need to join an established survivors group. There is only one opening in this group, and it's down to you and a few others. What would you say that sets you apart, or what would you have to offer to get into the group and ensure your survival? Amanda and Sophie are already in this group, so you kind of want to make a good case. Is Norbert not? Does our cat not get in? I've always thought I would be a good scout. I always thought I would be a good. I would tell those people, give me a rifle, and I want to prove to you what I can do with it. With not only shooting bullets through it, but using the scope to scout out for potential threats. And I also think I got the schmaltz. I got the brand manager-ness. Like, maybe I could be a negotiator. Maybe I could that, and I would maybe do a test, because in scouts I have done things where I have been sent out into the wilderness before to sleep overnight with nothing. They literally, I was sent out with the clothes I was wearing, and I came back the next morning. And so it'd be interesting to try to pull that again at 40 and be like, I can do that. Like, if you need me to go through the wilderness somewhere, I can be quiet. I'm not going to be full Ghost Recon with the camo, like going through the bushes, but I'm not scared of the outdoors. I love it. I love going long distances. I don't like sweating a whole lot. I don't like being in super hot weather, but the survival aspect of an apocalypse is just always very fascinating to me. Hopefully none of us actually have to practice any of those skills. The final question in this episode of Cup of Jones. Steve S., did you cry at the end of Red Dead Redemption 2? I don't remember. I know I shed a couple of tears. I actually had built a certain amount of affection into Arthur and my horse Lucky. Have there been any other games that have emotionally affected you that much? Sure. I'm trying to think games that made me cry. There are games, GTA. Made me cry a little bit in the end. Maybe get a little misty. I don't know if I cried at the end. I think I could kind of tell what was coming, and I think the end of Red Dead is a little, it's like GTA. It's like when they wrap their games up, it's just not the story at its best. But Red Dead Redemption 2 is such a slice of life story that I don't know if a big theatrical the end really fits that story. And then of course, once you actually get, not credits, but once you get the end of Arthur's story, there's a lot more to happen, and some of those moments actually made me more emotionally fulfilled. There's a scene in a train station with a character from Red Dead Redemption. It's the last time you see that character. It's when that character leaves, and it's the last conversation that Arthur has with that character. It's also following the storyline from the Native American storyline. So I don't want to get into spoilers, but if you know what I'm talking about, it's that scene in the train station. That I bawled. I lost it. I thought that scene was so well written, and it was this really interesting confession from Arthur over who he thinks he is and how he is perceived by other people. And I think we've all been there where we're trying to tell someone how great they are, and they just will not hear it, and they think they're not great. They think they don't have a lot of worth. And you're like, you have worth for all of these reasons, but none of those reasons are any better than the fact that I love you and I respect you and I support you and I think you're amazing. And they're just like, well, great. I hear what you're saying and I can file those words away, but I don't feel it. And it's a tough place to be for anybody. And I really felt it in that moment with Arthur. And I think they did a good job in making that an incredibly emotional story around him, but not having him like Kleenex all the time, being like, I'm so sad about all these things, or I'm so emotional, or I'm dealing with all of this stuff. Like, he definitely is a very closed off character, and they gave you a lot of freedom in expressing your own version of Arthur. But the scene that I'm talking about specifically, you only get if you are on more of the lighter side of the morality spectrum. And it's interesting that the game kind of struggles with it in that moment of like, who is this guy? And what is he like? And what effect is he having on people in this world? So that's the thing. Like, again, we were talking about narratives with Rockstar Games, and it's interesting to set up like the beginning of Last of Us. It's just like, even having experienced the beginning of Last of Us like a dozen times, it gets me every time. But that's following a very specific chemistry, equation, almost a formula. It's like the beginning of Up, Pixar's Up. It's like, how fast can you make someone cry from start to finish? Like, haha, 8 minutes, got you. It's just like, you establish character, you establish an upcoming tragedy. Tragedy happens, you experience the aftermath. It's impossible not to get emotionally absorbed in it. And Rockstar Games and a lot of open world games are interesting because there's some moments in Assassin's Creed Odyssey that I got emotionally involved with, because when you experience all these little tiny moments, they build, they add up to something. And then sometimes, your cup runneth over, and, out comes the waterworks. There was a moment near the end where I just stopped by like the home you are given at the end of Red Dead, and just had a very simple character interaction with someone that was just kind of like a random line that they said, and like it whooped me. I was like, because I wasn't expecting it. It seemed like so silly and incidental, and yet was such a reflection of actually how that world would work. And I was very moved by it. So maybe not the end. I think the end of Red Dead, I was like, phew, I can write my score now. I can finally write this review. There's a little bit of relief. The ending drags just a skosh, but I'm not here to criticize Rockstar Games. I'm here to talk about the Easy Allies Mysterious Monster Mash and answer your questions and get my butt to the studio in the next 45 minutes to talk about the state of play from Sony and the PlayStation. What the heck that is going to be. Let us know what your predictions are, and join us on twitch.tv/EasyAllies in 45 minutes when we will sit down and watch that crazy show. Again, I just want to say, apologies if I was ranty or emotional at the beginning of this. I don't want to do that a whole lot. Every now and then, I think it might be refreshing on this show to get a little personal and talk a little inside baseball about the emotional process of running this crazy thing. It's Dave Chappelle does a great bit on this recently where he says you don't want to, if you're a parent, you don't want to tell your kids everything. And so you don't want, I don't want to communicate every last concern I have about every last little thing. This is Cup of Jones, it's not therapy of Jones. And, but at the same time, I think it's nice to maybe shed a light on how this job can be tricky, and how the lessons that I'm eager to learn, and the steps that I am excited to take in the future to correct these issues. I assure you, if Easy Allies lasts for 10, 20, 30, 40 more years, I will never forget walking into that room and not seeing those cameras and being like, that was a trip. But it's a learning process, and I'm so grateful for that learning process because of all of you. I'm so grateful of this process that this company that we've built, this crowdfunding effort that we continue to make, and these opportunities that you give us to not only, hopefully bring you very entertaining stuff, but learn from them and then have those things be better and better. It's great. It's a lot of fun. I'm excited about the future, but I'm really excited that last week is in the past. Cheers, everybody.